Asmongold demands I get banned. Drama. No other Oscar noms, no other land are in the building to talk Israel Palestine. Not gonna lie, I'd love to see how you'd react to a successful rage bait while fasting. I would go crazy. I would lose my mind, I think. Yeah, Crash Dummies pod returns plus training for 3v3 later with Jason. Get in now. PKK Turkey ceasefire, is that significant? Yeah, that is significant. We'll talk about I haven't read enough about the Turkey stuff because obviously the Ukraine stuff was going crazy. So I'm not super up to date on what the hell's going on, but it's not shocking to me that Turkey is at the table. Why don't you try fasting like one day? No. Yeah, I said Ramadan Mubarak, okay? In the blast off as well. Do we have a Astaghfirullah? Bro, I am not a good Muslim. Don't even test me on this. There's never been a moment where I've been a good Muslim, okay? I've always been a bad Muslim. Don't start with me. All right, do we have a blast off meme or not? Let's see. Knee brace, that's funny. Okay. All right, we'll use that one. Let's go. All right. Where is it? Okay. Jokic owns LeBron. Original woke is not a black community thing. Original woke is a weed, LSD, shrooms user thing. It's so annoying how it got reappropriated. Okay, I don't care. No other land guys are coming at 1, and I'm kind of early for that reason as well because there's a lot I want to get around to before they pull up. It didn't show me you were live. I had to click on your profile. What? Holy shit, Twitch didn't notify me? Yes. Chatters, Twitch does not notify sometimes when I go live before my regular allotted time. And that's what happened today. Okay? I went live before the normal time that I go live at. The normal time that I go live at is 11 a.m. I went live at like 10:48. All of a sudden, it bricks Twitch's notification system. Okay? That's it. That is the major reason. This is why we have a Discord. This is why our Discord notifies people. This is why I also spam. This is why I also... Are you being shadow banned? Maybe. Maybe Twitch will ban me. Who knows? This is why I also update people on here, on Twitter. This is why I also update people on Instagram. The reason why I do it on every avenue I can is because I know that it is difficult for people to figure out when I'm live, even though I'm live pretty much at the same time every single day. Okay? Pretty much every single day. The Drewski repost is gone. Maybe he deleted it. He did. Maybe he got the boss call and someone was like, bro, what are you doing? Don't post him. He's problematic. And he deleted it. I don't know. I only rely on your IG stories to know when you go live. That's the only way I've ever known if you're live. Yeah. It is pretty funny that I'm considered more problematic than like people who routinely make problematic jokes. You know, God forbid. Yeah. Can't be pro-Palestine, baby. You do all your social media yourself? Please chat Reno and blast that old oh my gosh sound clip when you or Iron Mouse goes live. You are pro-terrorist, not Palestina. Viva si je si. Yeah, dude, I know. Except, weirdly enough, everyone who's pro-Palestina is called pro-terrorism, if you noticed. Isn't that suspicious? Isn't that a little weird? That, like, everyone who is an outspoken advocate for Palestinian emancipation is suspiciously always called terrorists? Isn't that odd? Isn't that a little weird? I wonder what that's about. What? Why shirk off what I said and just say, oh, I don't care, or what doesn't matter? Maybe consider how implicated drugs and being able to break away from the capitalist construct are, even though I know you aren't a weed head. Weed heads are a good community. Okay, dude, please stop being annoying. Sometimes when I say, hey, I don't care about that, that's actually to save you, okay? Because then I'm saving you from the trouble of going through this like advocacy for weed heads, which is not going to garner you any sort of support in this community and most likely make you look annoying. You know what I mean? Just smoke your weed and enjoy it. I don't care. You know, have fun. They're back from a 1-week timeout and they came back worse. Unsurprising. Unsurprising. All right. Obviously, yesterday there was an insane meeting that took place between Ukrainian President Zelensky and American sociopath Donald Trump. I covered this extensively. I hope that it's I covered it extensively, and the YouTube video is finally out on my YouTube page. Don't know why we talked about the Trump administration releasing the Epstein docs first. My editors have been slacking a little bit lately. I don't know what the hell's going on there. They're just like uploading things back to back to back and also uploading them like 3 days later. But luckily they uploaded this one. You can go check that out. But in any case, here's where we are. Yeah, it's because I don't pay them. That's probably what it is. It's because they're trapped in my basement, slaving away.
Reaction around the world to the White House face-off between President Trump and Vice President Vance and Ukraine's President Zelensky, plus new drone strikes overnight between Ukraine and Russia.
We have team coverage this morning in Washington and overseas. So let's begin here with ABC News senior White House correspondent Selena Wang in the nation's capital. Good morning, Selena.
Hey, good morning, Gio. What played out in the Oval Office yesterday was shocking, something we've never seen before. You had the president publicly berating the leader of a country that's been fighting for its survival ever since Russia invaded Ukraine 3 years ago. Now, the future of Ukraine and American support for the country are all unclear.
If you didn't have our military equipment, if you didn't have...
This morning, shockwaves around the world after peace talks implode between President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky. The Oval Office meeting turning explosive after Zelensky warns that if Russia takes over Ukraine, America will feel the pressure.
You have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
Vice President J.D. Vance jumping in to berate Zelensky.
Have you said thank?
I hate him so much. I just I hate everyone, but I really hate JD Vance. Like the way that he came in and be like, "Have you said thank you once?" Like, and his bitch ass, "Have you said thank you once?" was presented by the White House as a flex. It's just like, it's so incredibly lame and gross, especially because, yeah, he did. Okay. The very fact that Zelensky is even sitting there is because he's there to grovel. Like, you already know the power dynamic in this circumstance. Like, what do you mean? He said thank you once? Like, yeah, dude, he did multiple times. What do you want him to do? Like, what do you want him to do more? Like, get down on his knees and start sucking like JD Vance does? Is that what it is? There is not more bowing down that he could do, okay? The very fact that he was like, "I don't want to do a mineral deal," and then a week later he's like, "We are going to sign mineral deal." A week later, okay, after Trump called him a dictator, said he ain't shit, said he sucks over and over again, said he was responsible for his country getting invaded, all this stuff. Like, he's already there. He is already proverbially sucking it, and also trying to do his very best. Like, he desperately needs a ceasefire and American support to continue. Well, since you put me on blast, I mentioned I'm coming back from a 1B and apparently coming back worse. I'm going to stick up for myself because you guys are the ones that are annoying. I was just trying to talk about the original woke the drug thing. Why is this annoying? Dude, I don't know if you're going to understand this. The reason why you're being annoying is not because you have a just cause and people are undermining it. It's because you're being selfish. Okay? This is something that people like individual chatters sometimes can't comprehend. You know, think about this like a group of friends, okay? Think about the chat room like a group of friends. I'm going to very quickly try to explain this to you. Imagine if the group of friends have moved on to a different subject matter and you're still holding on to the previous subject matter, and then someone in the group gently tells you, hey, we've moved on, okay? Just, don't be annoying. And then you turn around and make the conversation about your feelings. Right now, you're making the conversation about your feelings. Except this is not just a group of friends. This is 20,000 people, okay? This is an arena full of people. And you're literally going, please talk to me about my own personal feelings. This is why you got probably banned last time around as well. So I urge you, please, whatever, fine, bye, it's fine, sorry. No, it's okay. People do it all the time. But you understand the dynamic in this community. I obviously respond. I see pretty much everything, okay? I see pretty much everything that's going on in the chat. I really value the back and forth that I have with chat. And sometimes people turn around and try to make it about themselves a little bit, okay? I love you, chatters. It's okay. Sometimes you get in your own way, okay? Let's get back to this.
4-3.
Vice President J.D. Vance jumping in to berate Zelensky.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you?
Zelensky.
Have you said thank you once? He has, okay? Not only his appearance there on this day to sign this mineral deal, the endless thank you, okay? But also on top of that, he did say thank you directly numerous times. But this is not about thank yous. Or rather, it should not be about thank yous. Okay? It should not be about thank yous at all. It should be about, this conversation should have taken place privately. Okay? And under different circumstances, regardless of party loyalty, regardless of whether it was Republicans or Democrats, this conversation does take place, usually. It just takes place behind closed doors. The very fact that it happened in front of a press pool is crazy. Your ego is inconsequential in the matter. What are we doing? That we're just now doing foreign policy on the whims of a narcissistic madman? It's crazy. And I still don't believe that is what is going on. I can't believe that the American machine could be at the mercy of one psycho. You know what I mean? One psycho in his thin skin. That's insane. It's wild. And I think that they will course correct eventually. But having said that, it is still shocking that this took place in the way that it did. I guess I should be more in an I told you so posture, because normally these kinds of conversations do take place. Normally these kinds of assurances and this kind of back and forth and this kind of negotiation does happen. It just happens behind closed doors. And then on the optics side, on the public facing side, America and our allies are like this, right? And then leftists are the ones who are supposed to say, no, you don't understand. This kind of conversation, there was a lot of back and forth that happened in this negotiations process. Ukraine wants more. America doesn't want to give it to them because America doesn't give a shit about Ukraine. And then every liberal is supposed to yell at me and say that I'm a campist, tanky Adolf Hitler lover for saying it. But because it happened in broad daylight this time around, there was virtually no way for liberals to deny the reality that they're seeing. This is in many ways, with the exception of the optics of it all, the back and forth, the underlying sentiment, the lack of interest in giving everything that Ukraine is demanding to Ukraine and simply using them as cannon fodder against Russia because they're stuck being invaded by Russia and are desperate for our resources and our help is precisely what has been going on. Okay? That's precisely what's been going on. The only difference is Trump is accelerating it in the more reactionary direction as he has done so far. And he's doing it very publicly. Doing it very publicly changes how soft power dynamics work for America and our allies. Okay?
Unable to reset the tone.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I answer?
No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
The White House blaming Zelensky for the blow-up. Trump kicking Zelensky out, canceling the press conference. Zelensky abruptly leaving without signing the deal for Ukraine to share its mineral resources. Later, Zelensky declining to apologize to Trump, but telling Fox News he's grateful.
I'm thankful to President Trump and to Congress bipartisan support. And I'm speaking like a president of a people who are in this struggle.
This was really interesting. Part of the reason why it was interesting is because you have to go on Brett Baird to talk to Donald Trump and possibly the entirety of the base of support for Donald Trump, which is crazy, right? In and of itself, even if you're a foreign nation's leader, even if you are the leader of a foreign nation that was invaded. Okay. So that in and of itself is already wild. Okay. But what's also wild about it is that I think Zelensky falsely assumes one of three different things. Either he has a misplaced faith in European security partners carrying Ukraine to a better position of defense without the United States of America, which I think in the long term will not be successful. Or he thinks that the American public is not unimaginably selfish and will actually listen to reason, because he didn't stand down on Brett Baird's broadcast. He did not apologize. He didn't stand down. He just straight up was like, he just said it like it is. The situation on the ground is terrible. We obviously need support from America. I'm the president of my nation. I'm not going to, let my people be undermined. He took a bold stance. He took, dare I say, an idealistic stance. Okay. He was very honest about it. He was very honest about the situation, but I don't think he understands that showing conviction like that is not going to move the needle for Americans. It's certainly going to piss off Donald Trump even further. And because he's an absolute sociopath, I feel like he's just going to respond in the worst way possible to this. Okay. But then again, he's in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because he also has political pressures back home to worry about as well. He obviously can't grovel and beg as Trump regularly tries to humiliate him. And even outside of everything else, even if he were to grovel and beg, as he has done within the confines of reason, there's no assurances that Trump will play ball, if that makes sense. No, I do understand the position he's in. He has no practical option. No. That's precisely what I'm saying. I'm saying that there is literally nothing he can do in this situation. This is a horrible, horrible situation to be locked into. Okay? So I don't know. I don't know what happens from this point on, because Trump is so petty, even though foreign policy still moves in whichever direction, regardless of what Trump's statements are. And we've seen that with the way he's communicated with Israel, right? About Israel saying like, you can do whatever you want, go kill, we're going to ethnically cleanse Gaza or whatever. And then Steve Witkoff will come and play the role of cleanup to be like, he doesn't mean it. Like, he just wanted our Arab partners to get more involved in this deal or whatever the fuck, right? Like they'll always like end up playing catch up after the fact. They always will sweep for Donald Trump and try to fix the posture and make it seem more reasonable when it's not. But like with respect to Russia and Ukraine, it's obvious that even if Zelensky was super pro-Trump, which he has been, I think Trump simply doesn't care. He wants to bully Zelensky to posture as a very strong man. Ested had a really interesting take on this as well. Yeah, my immediate thoughts, this direct-to-consumer politics is core to the White House appeal, same as televised cabinet meetings. Also, huge gap in media coverage of Zelensky, positive and moralistic, and plummeting voter support for Ukraine aid. Course correction was politically overdue. Never seen anything quite like this, says David Cleon. This is the kind of exchange we read about from high-level leakers who were in the room, but they're carrying on like they're not surrounded by the press. Wild. So that's why that was what was so shocking. It wasn't shocking that Trump was like bullying Zelensky, okay? Because that is how we treat our allies. That is how we treat our proxies. Because the reality of the matter is, we do hold all the cards in this situation, right? I'm not an avid viewer, but this is the dumbest take I've ever heard. Okay. You can maybe elaborate on why you think it's dumb or what your opinion is, and we can work on that. But he needs to eat his ego. Dude, he did eat his ego. You're wrong. Zelensky already ate his ego. Zelensky appearing here today to sign a mineral deal that he said he doesn't want to sign initially was already him eating his ego. And Trump took advantage of that and used it to further undermine him. That is my point. Like, he was there to kiss the ring. Like, what else is he supposed to do? He's stuck. He needs American help. Okay? Oh, Lex Friedman. Wait, Lex Friedman deleted. Wait, Lex Friedman deleted his post. I said, I want a ceasefire and wished for Biden to secure one when Ukraine had max leverage and libs called me an Adolf Putler lover for years. Zelensky came to sign a mineral deal after Trump called him a dictator and falsely blamed him for Russia invading his country. You are dick riding. And then he deleted the tweet. It was because he had this like long tweet about how he's like, I just want peace, and I think Zelensky did the wrong thing. He made a follow-up. I regret engaging in the political dumpster fire of the Trump-Zelensky meeting. I simply want to do my small part in building bridges and pushing for long-lasting peace. I'll try to focus on that through long-form, nuanced conversation with people on all sides. I love you all. Yeah, the amount of disrespect President Zelensky showed to Donald Trump and the American people today was insane. This was a mistake. I have tremendous respect for President Zelensky and the heroic actions he took in the early days of war. I genuinely don't understand how you can look at the situation and be like, how dare he talk back? Like, at all. Like, do people not understand the dynamic leading up to this moment? Do people not comprehend like how much dick eating Zelensky has had to do up until that moment already? Like, what are we talking about? Donald Trump literally called him a dictator, said he was responsible for his country getting invaded, said he's going to take all of his natural resources, said that, you know, we've been giving you so much money, you're a failed comedian, yada, 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 all this shit. And Zelensky still, obviously, understandably, because he needs American support, came to the United States of America to sign a fucking mineral deal that he didn't want to sign initially. And then in that very moment, Trump is like, no, you stop talking. And they kicked him out. Like, that's crazy. That is crazy. You have to be so hopped up on cult fumes to look at this dynamic and be like, yeah, Zelensky really fucked up here. Like, what is he supposed to do? What more can he do? What more is he supposed to do? Like, I'm sorry. I mean, this is ridiculous. I did not think he was being disrespectful. I think that I did not think he was being disrespectful at all. Unless you thought that he was supposed to get on his hands and knees. He was being disrespected. He was being disrespected endlessly. And he still was just there to kiss the ring to the best of his ability. And I think they still, like, I think that they, you know, still very obviously wanted to use this as an opportunity to completely destroy him, to shit on him. Zelensky should have done his homework. Watch Fareed Zakaria explain how to handle Donald Trump on real time. No, all of these guys are wrong, okay? Do you want to know why I think all of these guys are wrong? Because they're making it seem as though like this is a Shinzo Abe situation. Shinzo Abe, beloved by Donald Trump, was always demonstrating fealty to him, okay? Always. He was one of the few American allies that from the jump was super pro-Trump. When all of the other European allies were shitting on Trump, he was there by his side. Okay? R.I.P. Shinzo Abe. Now, that is a different dynamic, though, because Donald Trump already thinks Zelensky is an op. Okay? Donald Trump already thinks of Zelensky as an op. He does not see Zelensky as a asset even. He thinks that Zelensky is a fucking op. He thinks Ukraine is lib shit, okay? He thinks Zelensky should have given him blackmail so that he should have never lost to Joe Biden, and he is an op from day one, okay? He's an op from the last time. And he thinks, perhaps because of the unimaginable amount of support, mostly from the Democrats towards Ukraine, that he and his base attribute Ukraine to liberal nonsense. Like, they think Ukraine is just lib shit. It's crazy how you profit off this bullshit. Whew. I'm a political commentator, brother. I don't know. Maybe you'll understand it one day. That's just kind of how it works. Profit off the shit. Runs no ads. All the revenue comes from voluntarily people subscribing because they want to support the show. Okay? Doesn't even monetize most of the content. Allows his fans to monetize it to the best of their ability. And you're over here still fucking complaining, still chirping. Go yell at somebody else. Anyway. JD's like that weak kid on the playground who always asks, are you going to let him say that about you, trying to egg on a fight? My Ukrainian friend says Zelensky should have been smarter and a better diplomat. I understand that Trump is a mad king kind of president. I get that, which is why I thought he would have apologized on Brett Baer. Okay? Dude, as a Ukrainian, I expect our president to do whatever it takes to save lives here. If he cannot endure some verbal remarks, he's not doing his job wrong. If they say to bark, he should bark. Okay, people are dying, useless assaults here. No, I understand that, guys. I do. But I'm telling you, the situation, at least for Zelensky with Trump, is a little different. Okay? I think that Donald Trump is thin-skinned enough to basically, even on the in the interim, even aesthetically, ruin a deal. Okay? This doesn't mean that it will always remain that way, but I do think that Donald Trump, I think we all understand Donald Trump is insane. Everybody gets that. Okay? But I think Donald Trump's attitude here is completely, it's completely unacceptable.
In a strange way, I do feel like Zelensky should have studied this a little bit more. He's an emotional guy. I've met him many times. He's very brave. He's been fighting a war, and he let his emotion get the best of him. The way to have gone in there is first.
Dude, I'm sorry. People fucking, how is this happening? How am I the guy who's saying, after years and years of guys like Fareed Zakaria and all liberals yelling at me saying I love Adolf Hitler and I hate Zell Disney. How am I the guy defending Zell Disney and these guys are defending Donald Trump? What is going on? Like, what was he? I don't understand what these people are saying. His emotions got the best of him. He was getting dunked on by Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, dude. And he still was just sitting there and eating it. He was taking it. What the hell? Look, and the reason why I'm mad about all this is because I want a ceasefire, okay? That's what's so frustrating about this, is that Donald Trump, unironically, is cooking the ceasefire negotiation that he is supposed to bring to the table, okay? On the one hand, bringing Putin to the table and negotiating with Putin is a necessity if you want the bloodshed to end, okay? That is just how it works. It doesn't matter if we agree to it or not. That is how it works. So on the one hand, yes, Donald Trump is doing the right thing by bringing Putin to the negotiations process, bringing Putin to the table. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is doing it in the worst ways possible and also cooking his own deal, because in that process, every side has to get W's, okay? You cannot just simply chop down Zelensky and the Ukrainian position. You cannot do that, okay? That is ridiculous. You are an insane person. Like, you have to give them something back. So many people have died. Are you out of your mind? Like, it's insane. It's insane to just like use every opportunity you have to suck off Vladimir Putin as hard as you can, to a degree where you're also directly undermining Ukraine in the process. And I think the real reason why he's doing that is because he just is a petty bitch, okay? Straight up. So many people had to die, yet it's right to give Zelensky more weapons. That's not what I'm saying, dude. What are you talking about? I'm saying that if you put forth a ceasefire and a negotiation, okay, and bring Vladimir Putin to the table while also undercutting Zelensky and undercutting the Ukrainian position and saying that they're responsible for Vladimir Putin invading them over and over again, okay, you're literally, you're not coming to the table in good faith. You're just actively telling everybody that your goal is to offshore and dump all your older weapons on Ukraine, undermine the Russian military, and then pick apart the rest of the country for scraps. Like, he's just saying the quiet part out loud, but in the process, he's also developing an unimaginable amount of resentment from Ukrainians, Okay. And there is no, like, you're making it less likely for any kind of real ceasefire negotiation to take place. And as someone who is an advocate for a ceasefire in perpetuity, I get very frustrated when I see that. Okay. I think part of the reason why, however, he did that is, as Ested says, to course correct, to basically not just bully Zelensky, which is, great for him. He wants to do that for sure, but also to basically get the media to understand what's what. Like, he's not a careful dude. He's not a particularly smart guy. But I think I understand like what Ested is saying here, which is he is trying to directly tell America the past 3 years of pro-Zelensky coverage that you saw about like Russia is losing the war, Ukraine is winning the war. All that shit is gone. Okay. Done. It's done. It's not. Ukraine is a proxy. We've always used them as a proxy. We're going to continue using them as a proxy. And there's no more like standing ovations for Zelensky and propping him up as like a bold, brave person trying to defend his country. Okay. I think that's what Donald Trump is trying to do, but he's doing it in the way that, I mean, I don't even think he should do that, by the way. For the record, I don't think that it's appropriate of him to do that, but I think that's what he's actively doing here, while also telling everybody there is no soft power. Would you do this for free? Yes, as evidenced by the fact that I am. Like, you're literally watching for free. Think about that. And I did for many years. You're watching for free. You're currently watching for free. And do you actually think that Ukraine needs a security guarantee that Zelensky is arguing for which Trump seems to not prioritize as much? So in terms of that back and forth, in terms of like Zelensky saying, we need a security guarantee. We need a security guarantee. And Trump being like, you're not going to get it. Fuck off. Right? That conversation should not be happening in broad daylight. That's or under normal circumstances, that conversation does not happen in broad daylight. Because when it does happen in broad daylight, that means America is becoming even more actively violent and taking ownership over their selfish nature. And in some ways, I think it's a radicalizing moment for a lot of people. And, I hope people learn the right lessons, but I think it's going to break the brains of a lot of people. They're not going to learn the right lessons from this. They're not going to be like, oh, I get why Hassan always says America bad and then explains the reasons as to why. I think they're just going to look for alternative reasons. You know what I mean?
3 years, and they just want to hear that America on our side and that America will stay with us, not with Russians, with us.
Trump has brushed off concerns that Putin could violate a peace deal, refusing to guarantee Ukraine's security so Russia won't invade again. I asked the president who he trusts more.
Do you trust Putin or Zelensky more?
Look, I don't trust or distrust anybody. I just want to get a deal done. And if the deal happens, good. But you can't embolden somebody that does not have the cards, and all of a sudden that person says, oh, well, now I can keep fighting.
And sources tell me the Trump administration is now considering cutting off all ongoing shipments of military aid to Ukraine. And this is a strong signal of this dramatic plunge that we've seen in relations between wartime allies, even though at this point it's unclear what the effect of that would be on the battlefield, guys.
Unclear indeed. All right, Selena, thank you so much. And as you can imagine, we are getting lots of reaction this morning to that Oval Office shouting match from around the world. ABC's Tom Sufi-Burge is in London with that side of the story. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Gio. Yeah, alarm bells are really ringing out across Europe this morning after that jaw-dropping bust-up. European and other Western leaders are rallying behind President Zelensky in Ukraine, but Western diplomats now have their work cut out to try and mitigate the damage. The reaction in Ukraine so far is a near consensus that President Zelensky stood up for his people, trying to correct misconceptions and even at times disinformation from the Trump administration about the war, and also fighting for Ukraine's baseline, that they can only accept a peace agreement if there are security guarantees to prevent Russia invading yet again. Now, despite his principal cause, some analysts are questioning whether Zelensky, at a disadvantage in a foreign language, might have misjudged the moment. And there's now deep concern about the impact this will have on US military support, which was already in jeopardy. Without it, Ukraine will suffer a significant blow. The winner out of this is Russia, the Kremlin savoring the moment, praising Trump and mocking Zelensky. And the European Union's top diplomat now suggesting America's role as leader of the free world could be over and Europe should now work to fill the gap. Moments ago, Zelensky touching down here in London ahead of a European summit tomorrow amid a unique sense of crisis on this continent. Janae?
Unique sense of crisis indeed. Tom, thank you for that.
Why is nobody talking about China, man? All right, here is the CNN exclusive. You don't see all the things that lead up to this. Rubio defends Trump. Okay? All the Trump supporters in my work have been quiet since the election. This situation is the first time they've talked outwardly. So I think there's two different kinds of Trump supporters here. Hassan, I agree with your standpoint on the subject, but what is your take about those videos where we see Ukrainian officials yanking men off the streets and often beating them up and taking them away, unrolled them by force, send them into the trenches? Yeah, no, that's why I'm saying, obviously, it's time for a ceasefire. Okay? I have long maintained this position, but it's obvious, especially now, that Ukraine has run out of manpower. Unless they lower the age of conscription to 18 from 25, which is what Biden suggested on his way out, okay? And Trump even entertained it for a brief moment, and they start pulling younger and younger men and just completely eviscerate their next generation, there is not much more time that Ukraine has in this process. On the other side, it's not like Russia is cruising through this either. Okay? They're not cruising through this as well. It's not like they're having a great time here either. So, before all the Z pushers say like, "Oh, dude, they're also killing it." Like, no, it is in both parties' best interest to wrap it up. The only party that doesn't necessarily care about the length of this and is just trying to make out with as much money as possible from this process as they have so far is the United States of America. But because of the terms set on the battlefield, I think that Ukraine has two options. Either they go back to their European partners and America as well and forcibly deport all of the able-bodied Ukrainian men that are of age, okay, and then instantly start training them and forcibly conscripting them to go out and fight, and then also simultaneously continue getting weapons from America, continue getting weapons from Europe and whatnot, and continue the war of attrition and potentially eviscerate their next generation, okay? Or they have to do a ceasefire. But in this process, America holds all the cards on the Ukrainian side. And therefore, I think we owe it to the Ukrainians to make sure that we give them the best possible deal we can. It is insane to me that this is like out of the question from the Trump perspective. The notion that like the responsible party is Ukraine and that the Ukraine is not playing ball and being annoying is psychotic to me. Okay? It's completely psychotic. It's ridiculous. Yes, I'm fairly certain that Zelensky himself also recognizes the conditions on the battle lines. Okay, he's not delusional. He sees it. Everybody that even OSINT Twitter sees it. Okay, the only people that don't see it are people that only hear about this stuff every now and then from MSNBC and New York Times or whatever. Because like there is also an active war of information happening as well. Russia keeps saying they're cruising and it's awesome and nobody died or whatever, and Ukraine says basically that their battle lines are hardened and that they're totally doing a great job and that any day now they're going to push back the Russian forces, and the Kursk offensive was a massive success and they took Russian territory, and therefore, they'll have a bargaining chip in that regard. And I think that I suspect that the casualty numbers are fairly high, like very high, higher than the way that it has been presented for both sides. This new pro-Ukraine Hasanabi is great to see. What? This is not a new take. I have been an advocate for a ceasefire in Ukraine under the Biden administration and regularly yelled at the Biden administration over and over again. This is not a new position. Why should the U.S. care about giving the best deal possible for Ukraine? Because we expended them. Like, what do you mean?
And my source tonight is the Secretary of State who is in that room today, Marco Rubio. Thank you so much, Secretary Rubio, for being here. We just heard from President Zelensky. He said he does not think that he owes President Trump an apology for what happened inside the Oval Office today. Do you feel otherwise?
I do, because you guys don't see, you guys only saw the end. You saw what happened today. You don't see all the things that led up to this. So let me explain. The president's been very clear. He campaigned on this.
Yeah, the take I've always had is finally the most pro-Ukraine take in liberals' eyes, because they have arrived at my conclusion years later. Okay, after years and years of yelling about how I love Adolf Hitler with out-of-context clips that I found out later were directly advocating for the exact opposite thing that they claimed I was advocating for, by the way. And moments where I like lose my shit on a chatter and respond to them for 10 seconds, as though that in and of itself is indicative of the, hundreds of hours of commentary on this process. Finally, they've also arrived at the conclusion that like maybe a ceasefire could be a good opportunity, and they're like shedding their delusion on this, or maybe even recognizing that America has been using and abusing Ukraine because they're not interested in Ukrainian emancipation, but simply interested in making money, lo and behold, and also undermining a foreign adversary. That finally, they've arrived at the similar conclusion that I've had. So now they can turn around and say, oh, wow, you're pro-Ukraine, I guess.
He thinks this war should have never started. He believes, and I agree, that had he been president, it never would have happened. Now here we are. He's trying to bring an end to this conflict. We've explained very clearly what our plan is here, which is we want to get the Russians to a negotiating table. We want to explore whether peace is possible. They understand this. They also understand that this agreement that was supposed to be signed today was supposed to be an agreement that binds America economically to Ukraine, which to me, as I've explained, and I think the president alluded to today, is a security guarantee in its own way, because we're involved. It's now us. It's our interests. That was all explained. That was all understood. And nonetheless, for the last 10 days, in every engagement we've had with the Ukrainians, there's been complications in getting that point across, including the public statements that President Zelensky has made. But they insisted on coming to D.C. This agreement could have been signed 5 days ago, but they insisted on coming to Washington. And there was should have been a very clear understanding. Don't come here and create a such scenario where you're going to start lecturing us about how diplomacy isn't going to work. President Zelensky took it in that direction, and it ended in a predictable outcome as a result. It's unfortunate. That wasn't supposed to be this way, but that's the path he chose. And I think, frankly, sends his country backwards in regards to achieving peace, which is what President Trump wants at the end of the day, is for this war to end. He's been as consistent as anyone can be about what his objective is here.
But what specifically do you want to see President Zelensky apologize for?
Well, apologize for turning this thing into the fiasco for him that it became.
Real psycho hours, dude. We're at a... We've devolved so much. It's crazy. What should he apologize for is a great question here. And the answer always is just like basically nothing. Okay. It's just like, oh, he should not have responded at all. Okay. Like the very fact that he's there over and over again, thanking the administration like a million times over, thanking them over and over and over and over and over again. Like, what more? What do you want? He's just been eating it. Like, what is really messed up that he didn't get on his hands and knees and beg? It's also interesting to see Marco Rubio say this, because he's supposed to be the reasonable war hawk. Okay. Obviously, when you're in the Trump administration, reason kind of goes out the window. But on the one hand, Marco Rubio is supposed to manage the direction, manage the trajectory of the allegiances, and basically turn around and be like, oh, Trump didn't mean it like that. But it does seem like they're just actively going after Zelensky and saying he is at fault here. So I guess, I don't know. We're just cutting Ukraine off completely. I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, is there a realignment happening?
There was no need for him to go in there and become antagonistic. Look, this thing went off the rails. You were there, I believe. It went off the rails when he said, let me ask you a question to the vice president. What kind of diplomacy are you talking about? Well, this is a serious thing. I mean, thousands of people have been killed, thousands. And he talks about all these horrible things that have happened to prisoners of war and children, all true, all bad. This is what we're dealing with here. It needs to come to an end. We are trying.
It's crazy. Yeah, okay. You explain all of that. Not to be too libbed up here. Not to be too libbed up here. But if you explain all of that, how do you also simultaneously explain Donald Trump being like, and all of that is the fault of Zelensky? How does that make sense? Like, I don't understand it. What do you, even if your position is that Ukraine bit off more than it could chew with Russia, okay? And really egged on Russia and you know, found itself too comfortably in the bosom of Western empire when it's supposed to be like the boundary, the Russia's red line in perpetuity that the NATO allies also understand, okay? Even if that's your position, how the fuck is that still Zelensky's fault? At that point, you should be blaming previous administrations, but you can't do that because Donald Trump also was a previous administration president. And in the process, he, you know, continued the same foreign policy perspectives with respect to Ukraine. So for that reason, you can't really say previous administrations really fucked it up too, which is why you arrive at this situation where you have to blame Zelensky, the most insane position you can arrive at. That's it. That's it. That's literally it. Okay? How do you defend saying, JD saying, have you said thank you enough? What an insane thing to say. Yeah, I know. It's not only awful in terms of form, like it was just so gross of him to say that, but it was also so stupid. Like you're, like who are you? You're not even here. Like you're not even a part of this admin, little bro, okay? You're just kind of here as like Peter Thiel's blood boy who just communicates all the secret closed door meetings back to him directly.
Trying to bring it to an end. The way you bring it to an end is you get Russia to the table to talk. And he understands that attacking Putin, no matter how anyone may feel about him personally, forcing the president into a position where you're trying to goad him into attacking Putin, calling him names, maximalist demands about Russia having to pay for the reconstruction, all the sorts of things that you talk about in a negotiation. Well, when you start talking about that aggressively, and the president's a deal maker, he's made deals his entire life, you're not going to get people to the table. And so you start to perceive that maybe Zelensky doesn't want a peace deal. He says he does, but maybe he doesn't. And
dog, why is he there then? Why is he there? You guys have legitimized denying actual truth. No, why is Zelensky there to begin with? Clown Lensky's a corrupt puppet and war criminal. He and his EU-US cosmopolitan globalist backers are scared of a ceasefire killing their cash cow, dreams of color revolutions, and ruin the endless destabilization of the whole region. He feeds on chaos. A ceasefire means his political death. Stop being a skibbity toilet. Dog, I don't even know where to begin to address this. Okay? Donald Trump is literally the EU-US cosmopolitan globalist backer. He is that guy. What do you think his solution is here? Like what? No, this is such an insane thing to say. Donald Trump is the president of America. He is not a Maoist third worldist, dude. Wake up. Okay? No, I will be skibbity. And you need to stop phantom taxing. Okay? I will be so skibbity. I will stick out my gyat for the Rizzler. Stop it. What the fuck? What are you saying?
And that active
like, dude. Unk, you're washed. You brain rot isn't convincing. Okay. The question I always have for these guys, is this. Okay, if Donald Trump is not this like globalist guy, he's a real isolationist, why is he advancing the Brandonian agenda of Saudi nuclearization and potentially even sending troops to Saudi Arabia to protect Saudi Arabia and troop escalation in the region that he has not scaled back on, and as a matter of fact is giving Israel quintillions of dollars of weapons, just like Biden did? Why is that the case? Can one of these fucking MAGA communists respond to this question? Can someone explain to me what the Maoist third worldist position of Donald Trump is? And you know, how did that happen? How do you square that circle? Explain that to me. Why is he just deep-throating Benjamin Netanyahu on a daily basis? How does that work?
Open undermining of efforts to bring about peace is deeply frustrating for everyone who's been involved in communications with them leading up to today. And I think he should apologize for wasting our time for a meeting that was going to end the way it did.
You yourself have said previously that Putin cannot be trusted in negotiations. That was the point that President Zelensky was ultimately making during that conversation, is that there cannot be an agreement without security guarantees, because he was talking about all the ceasefire agreements before, or agreements that Putin has just blown past. I mean, do you still feel that way, that Putin cannot be trusted in these negotiations?
Well, I was there yesterday when the president said in front of the media that our...
Yeah, this is also... The liberal position here is also kind of silly, too, because, like, when you're in the midst of, like, securing a ceasefire deal with the other party, yeah, you're not going to constantly talk about, like, how they can't be trusted. They can't be trusted. Like, what do you mean? That's the one aspect of Trump's commentary that if he wasn't an insane person, I would understand. I'd be like, yeah, you can't, like, we get it. Okay? I understand. Yes, Vladimir Putin can't be trusted. Okay? I know. Trust me. I know. Look at the last 3 years. But the point is, if the options in front of us are unlimited battle and trench warfare, as both parties are just butting heads in the meat grinder, okay, and a conditional ceasefire agreement that might actually fall apart once again because of destabilization from the Russian side, then you go back to square one. That's it. You go back to permanent war. That's it. That's it. That is literally my argument, and was my argument when liberals used to get mad at me all the time. They were like, appeasement. You're doing appeasement. You're doing appeasement to Russia when you say you want a ceasefire. It's like, no, dude. I see the situation. I see the writing on the wall. When it comes to nuclear arms, when it comes to nuclear nations, the dynamic is very different. There's a reason why there is no no-fly zone over Ukraine. Why do you think there is no no-fly zone over Ukraine right now? Ukraine wanted it. It's a perfectly understandable desire. Why is there none? Think. That's because two nuclear armed nations are not going into conflict with one another because the nukes will start flying.
Our approach is going to be trust but verify. President Trump's made deals his entire life. He's not going to get suckered into some deal that's not a real deal. We all understand this. We understand it on our end for certain. And so the goal here is to get to a place we have to explore whether peace is possible. I've said this repeatedly. I don't know. I think it is, based on what they've said so far, but we have to explore that. How else is this war going to end? I ask people, what is the European plan to end this war? I can tell you what one foreign minister told me, and I'm not going to say who it was, but I can tell you what one of them told me, and that is that the war goes on for another year. And
Bro pointed to his ear. When he said one of them told me, he meant he actually heard them from 7,000 miles away, actually. Okay? My man's got satellites on him, dude. This is crazy work. He's like, yeah, one of them told me, as in they were talking in a private meeting 7,000 miles away in an underground bunker, and I heard it.
At that point, Russia will feel so weakened that they'll beg for a peace. That's another year of killing, another year of dying, another year of destruction. And by the way, not a very realistic plan in my point of view. So if there's a chance of peace, even if it's a 1% chance, that needs to be explored. And that's what President Trump is trying to do here.
I mean, okay. All right. Here he is trying to moderate it. Okay. He is trying to moderate it. Okay. This is. Okay. The last part of this, he stuck the landing. Okay. He did. He flubbed in the beginning, but ultimately the damage control implies. This is why I said what Rubio says is more significant than what Trump says in the meetings, because while they have to defend Donald Trump's feelings, which is such an insane thing to say, but he is an incredibly emotional person and very thin-skinned, and these guys have to basically play ball with a psycho, okay? Marco Rubio is old school politician, and that's the reason why he's in charge of the State Department. So what he says, I think, is more important than what Donald Trump says. So while the first part of this was just like basically saying like, oh, you know, Disney is corrupt, or, he should have groveled further or whatever. Then he turns around and is like, but, we have to give peace a try. We have to do, no matter what the alternative is, this is what we're going to do. This is what this admin is going to move forward with.
President Trump said just when he was leaving the White House after that meeting that he doesn't think President Zelensky wants peace. But isn't that why the Ukrainian leader was in the Oval Office for that meeting?
Great question by Caitlin Collins. Is correct. My question as well.
Today?
Well, he was in the Oval Office to sign a minerals rights deal. That's what he was in the Oval Office to sign today. But again, when you have comments that deliberately appear to be after having discussed this repeatedly, deliberately appear to be geared towards making the argument that peace is not possible. Again, he turns to the vice president. What kind of diplomacy are you talking about? Almost as if to say, these people, you can't deal with them. You can't have any negotiations with Putin because he can't be trusted. And
There's not, no. No, brother, then he wouldn't have showed up. Like, what are we talking about, man? What are we talking about? They are trusting Putin, so stupid. No, Marco Rubio's statement there is not incorrect. Even if there's a 1% chance that there could be a ceasefire, we have to take it, is not incorrect, especially when, as the head of the State Department, he's also laying out the truth of the matter in terms of what the battlefield looks like. Okay? He's saying that, look, read between the lines. Understand that this is not a normal cabinet, okay, where Donald Trump will both be brutally honest and very ruthless in times and demonstrate American ruthlessness in broad daylight, but also is very narcissistic and kind of short-tempered and short-sighted, so much so that he will fuck up a ceasefire deal that his people, the Marco Rubios of the world, put together. Okay? Trump administration wants public apology from Zelensky to mend relations after Oval Office clash. Bloomberg. He is literally lying about what Zelensky said and wants, though? Yes, I know. The reason why he's lying about what Zelensky said and wants is because, one, we don't give a fuck about our proxies. We don't give a fuck about our allies. He can just betray them and shit on them all day, every day. And two, he certainly has to play ball with Donald Trump. He has to play around Donald Trump's feelings. He has to run defense for Donald Trump. Because if he doesn't run defense for Donald Trump is going to be like, okay, you're done. You're a rhino. And his idiotic base is also going to be like, okay, I guess Marco Rubio was always a war hawk and a rhino. Because in some ways he is. I mean, he absolutely is a war hawk.
You're just wasting your time on negotiations. Well, he's directly, basically undermining everything the president has told him he's trying to do. Look, there's no need for that. You start to suspect, does he really want an end to this war? Does he just think that, we have to do whatever he says and give him anything he wants without any end game? That was the Biden strategy. We were funding a stalemate. We were funding a meat grinder. And unfortunately, for the Ukrainians, the Russians have more meat to grind, and they don't care about human life. We've seen it, human waves, the North Koreans, etc. And so,
by the way, without the backdrop of Donald Trump's statements, this is what you would hear from a reasonable Republican, like not the first 5 minutes, okay, but this is what you would normally hear from a cabinet that was changing like that was trying to pack up the Ukraine situation. Basically, a more polite approach to this would basically be, it's a meat grinder. Ukraine doesn't have enough manpower. Either they lower their age of conscription and also force European allies and the United States of America, or ask European allies in the United States of America to start deporting able-bodied Ukrainian men back to Ukraine so they can hold weapons and engage in this war of attrition, okay? Or we have to give peace a chance. That is what you would normally say. Okay, and then the back and forth and the yelling at one another would probably happen behind closed doors. And then some leaker would explain to us that is what happened behind closed doors. And then I would point to that leaker and I would say, see, America doesn't give a fuck about Ukrainians. And then all of the liberals will yell at me and say, I'm Adolf Putler lover. I'm Mr. Lover of Adolf Putler. America does care about Ukrainian emancipation. And we would have this back and forth. The reason why we're not having that back and forth is because Trump is basically openly doing it in broad daylight. Why does he voluntarily go on CNN instead of pro-Trump media? What do you mean? Because this is him fixing Trump's insanity in his way. He's trying to do damage control. He's trying to give assurances to, you know, the military-industrial complex and the Capitol owners who still listen to CNN and aren't like brain-broken QAnon dick riders for MAGA world. Yeah, this is his attempt at trying to do damage control, but he knows that Donald Trump is going to hear him, and he knows he has to play a role here and you know, spare Trump's feelings while simultaneously saying, like, these are the real reasons why we need to do a ceasefire.
So this is a very complex thing. It's very delicate. It's very costly. It's very bloody. It needs to be brought to an end, but it isn't going to be brought to an end with public pronouncements and maximalist demands in the public, but in real diplomacy. The vice president was right.
When you say they don't care about life, are you talking about the Russians or the Ukrainians?
Well, the Russians, I mean, they're conscripting by the hundreds of thousands. They brought in North Korean troops that were slaughtered in Kursk, and they keep going because they got more people. That's the other fact. Look, and it's, you know, again, we go back to the same point. I'm not going to fall into this trap of the who's bad and who's evil. People can make those conclusions. People have seen how this narrative has played out and where we are today and how this all started and so forth. The point now is it has to end. And the way it ends is you get people to a negotiating table, and the president, who's the ultimate deal maker, knows you don't get people to a negotiating table when you're calling them names and you're accusing them of things, because at the end of the day, this is not a political campaign. Okay? This is high-stakes international diplomacy and an effort to bring about an end to a very, very dangerous war.
But you yourself, sir, have said before that you believe Putin is a war criminal, that is a widely accepted fact. You've called him a butcher. And you've said that as a Secretary of State, you do believe it's important for someone with such global influence as you have to speak with that kind of moral clarity.
Yeah, and at this moment, as Secretary of State, my job working for the president is to deliver peace, to end this conflict and end this war. Ultimately, that is the job of the State Department. The State Department doesn't fight wars, it ends them. It tries to end them. And that's usually, by the way, celebrated.
Okay, Cap.
I mean, throughout history, I've watched presidents...
The State Department doesn't start wars, it ends them. The American State Department, okay, dog. Yeah. Security guarantee is what Zelensky wants. Yeah, the entire point of contention that should have been done privately but is being done publicly is that security guarantee is what Zelensky wants. Trump thinks mineral agreement is basically that because Putin wouldn't dare to fuck with Trump's money. Yes, exactly. And Zelensky thinks, for understandable reasons, no, Putin would definitely fuck with your money. And he would definitely go back to the drawing board and restart conflict. That's the point. That is the point of contention here. Okay? My point is, I don't give a fuck. I want people to stop dying, which is why I think for as long as you can commit to a ceasefire is a good thing, is a benefit. The notion that this gives Russia an opportunity to re-up and rearm and then pummel Ukraine further is silly. It's the same principle behind the Israeli-Palestinian ceasefire that was implemented, and I had the exact same position then, warning people that Israel most likely is going to re-up and rearm and likely pummel and permanently annex the West Bank, but it's still ultimately a good thing that people are not being fucking slaughtered in the process. That was my position on Israel-Palestine, and it's the consistent position I have for Russia and Ukraine.
To bring about an end to wars and conflicts, and people celebrate that. They applaud it. I think we should be very proud and happy that we have a president whose prime objective is not to get into wars, but to prevent wars and to get out of wars. That is a very noble, laudable goal. Everyone should be applauding it, and he should be given the space to do that, not undermined by demands that he call Putin names or that we say things that impede the ability to conduct real diplomacy, as the vice president said today.
To follow up on what you just said a moment ago, are you saying that you have doubts that President Zelensky wants this war to come to an end?
What I have doubts about is whether he's willing to say and do the things that we need in order to get a negotiation. Again, you guys, this has been going on for 10 days. And, you know, to see things in the press saying we're not coordinating with the Ukrainians, that's absolutely false. Over the last 10 days, the Ukrainians have met with the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of State, the Vice President of the United States, had a phone call with President Trump, and he was in the Oval Office today. I've talked to the foreign minister of Ukraine 3 times in the last 10 days. The argument that we're not engaging, but yet you keep reading these press accounts about, oh, well, they're leaving us out. We're not involved. We're not engaged. None of these things are true, and it continues. So all that led up to today in a deep sense of frustration. And my hope is that this all can be reset and maturity can kick in and some pragmatism, because this war tonight, people will die in Ukraine. Tonight, people will die in this conflict. We're trying to bring an end to this conflict, which is unsustainable. It's an unsustainable, bloody war that has to come to an end. And right now, the only leader in the world that can even have a chance.
Even if Zelensky doesn't like the deal, it does not matter. Because America holds all the cards in this process, they are supposed to be more reasonable and not fucking humiliate Zelensky and undermine him. Especially because, like, we're in the process of looting Ukraine. Like, what are we talking about? We are quite literally in the process of looting Ukraine. Everybody, every reasonable person, and I think Zelensky himself, understands the power dynamic here. Okay? So if every single person understands the power dynamic here, how the fuck are you going to actively undermine your supposed ally in the process, your proxy in the process? Undermining and humiliating your proxy in the process undermines your standing. This is my point. Trump's ego is getting in his own way of actually securing a reasonable ceasefire negotiation. That's my point. He is such a fucking man-child and so goddamn thin-skinned that even if he brought forth reasonable positions initially, it's impossible to say that he brought forth reasonable positions because it was sandwiched between insanely unreasonable shit that he was doing in terms of taking all of Ukraine's resources and also simultaneously bullying Zelensky. Like, he has more smoke for our proxy in this process than he does for the adversary. Okay? That's wild.
Of bringing about an end to this is named President Donald Trump. And we need to give him the opportunity to try and do that. And when you see efforts to impede it, when you tell someone, don't say, let's not talk about these things, let's not go in this direction because it makes it harder for us to engage, and they insist on doing it anyways, you start to wonder. I don't like to impugn people's motives, but you start to wonder what's behind it. So look, again, let's hope that this can be salvaged, but I'm not sure after today.
You don't believe that this can be, you're not
the
sure.
adversary is strong, the proxy is weak, so it makes sense. No, it doesn't make sense. And the reason why it doesn't make sense is because America is still stronger than Russia. I can't believe people are still saying, how is Ukraine a proxy to the U.S.? I'm losing my freaking mind, dude. Oh my God. I'm losing it. If that was not the case, Zelensky would not be coming to the United States of America yesterday after Trump called him a dictator. Okay? Please. Donald Trump has been actively undermining Zelensky nonstop. And Zelensky, even after being kicked out of the White House, has been thanking him over and over and over again. Why do you think that's happening? The United States has been using Ukraine to fight against Russia. This is not a secret. This is what they have been openly stating. I don't know how people still at this stage refuse to recognize that when virtually every politician has actively said it. Okay? I saw a piece from Lloyd Austin who said as much. America is on the right side, being on Ukraine's side in this process, as I have said over and over again. Ukraine is the country that was wronged. It was invaded by a larger adversary. Russia is in the wrong. Ukraine is on the right. Having said that, however, America's interests with Ukraine are not for emancipatory reasons. It is not. And every single politician has basically recognized this reality and openly stated it. What's wild to me, however, is that even in this moment, people still act like that's not the case, and I don't understand.
Let's face it, we're waging a proxy war. But we're not giving our proxies the ability to do the job. And for years and years now, we've been allowing them to fight with one hand tied behind their backs, and it has been cruel. And we need now to give them what they need.
There's Boris Johnson, the great deal maker himself, the British deal maker. But it's not just that. Hold on. There's more. I mean, you got like the most reasonable heads, the most reasonable foreign policy heads, not even like the demented Brandon team. I'm talking like, you know, people who actually are in charge of the foreign policy, also openly stating it. This is from an op-ed by Megan K. Stack. Okay, here. U.S. officials usually describe this war in noble terms, extolling their unflinching support, $175 billion worth, for heroic Ukraine in the fight against the monster Mr. Putin. Sometimes, though, they are blunter, such as when Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin told reporters in Poland a couple months after the invasion that the United States wants to see Russia weakened. The comments suggested that the United States would weaponize Ukrainian patriotism and spend Ukrainian lives because of prolonged war. Even a war that could probably not be won suited U.S. interests in chipping away at Mr. Putin's staying power. This was 3 years ago. I believe it's right to call Ukraine a proxy war because I think it's reasonable to conclude that the Biden administration has supported the war not only in deference to righteous Ukrainian determination to fight off Russia, but also because the war was a chance to debilitate our enemy without directly engaging in it. Here is from the AtlanticCouncil.org. January 12th, 2023. The West reaps multiple benefits from backing Ukraine against Russia. Now, people will look to this stuff as not an admission, but as simply a way to sell the continued support to Ukraine because Americans are selfish. They will look to Joe Biden saying, oh, but we have artillery shell. We have artillery shell facilities in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Like all of the dollars that we're spending on Ukrainian defense is actually being spent in the United States of America to beef up United States of America contracting. Like that's actually building our manufacturing capabilities, right? They say this and people point to that and say, oh, it's because we want to sell it to Americans. No, those are actual moments of truth, brutal honesty. Okay? That is what the truth of the matter is.
Sure that this can be salvaged. I mean, can this relationship between Zelensky and Trump be repaired in your view?
I think anything is possible, but it has to go back to the point that President Trump is interested in being involved in this for the purposes of bringing about an enduring and lasting peace. That's what he wants to achieve. And I think if I'm a country, okay, that's involved in a war with a bigger country, who's losing thousands of people, who's had 3 million people leave my country because they can't be there, who is facing these challenges, I would be thanking a president who's trying to help bring about an end to this war. I would be thanking him, and I would be supportive of what he's trying to do, at least in my public pronouncements and in my public posture. And we didn't see that today, and we haven't seen that for the last few days. Now, will that change? I hope so. It should for the purposes of global peace and stability in Europe and around the world.
Do you think you can make the argument that he hasn't said thank you?
Well, I think the vice president said he hadn't said it today. He hadn't heard it today in that meeting, and we were.
He did. This stuff is so stupid. He did.
We're hoping that meeting would begin by thank you for everything you've done for us. We wouldn't be where we are today without you. We wouldn't even have a chance to negotiate a peace without the help you gave us. By the way, without the help you gave us when you were president in the first term, because President Obama refused to provide them defensive capabilities in terms of military hardware. He did provide him blankets.
Yeah, and that was brought up today during
aid,
that meeting.
And it was brought up, but I was there. In fact, I vividly recall at the time Vice President Biden saying to me in a meeting that we had at the Vice President's residence that the reason why we didn't want to provide them those weapons is because they might use them. That was his exact quote. And that was the attitude. I remember clearly then the Ukrainian leader saying, we don't need more blankets or MREs. We need weapons to defend ourselves. And they didn't do it. President Trump did. He provided them weaponry, some of it, much of it, which was used at the beginning of this war. And without those weapons being in their stocks, this war could have been over very quickly, 2, 3, 4 days. Another pot shot that Zelensky took today, when the president pointed that out, you know what Zelensky said? He said, yeah, we've heard that from the Russians. That's not a Russian narrative. That was the official position, okay, of the United States. I vividly recall being briefed by leaders in the Biden administration telling us that this war was going to be over in 5 to 6 days. They believed that was their assessment at the time. And it wasn't the case because of the weapons that Ukraine had in its stocks because of President Trump in his first term. So he should have been grateful for that and grateful for what we're doing now. And one more point. It's not just President Trump. There's news reports out there from NBC News, at least is one of the places I recall, reporting that Biden had a shouting match with Zelensky for not being grateful and not being thankful for everything that was provided back in 2022. Now, that didn't happen in front of the press. that was leaked, but it got out there. These frustrations are not unique to President Trump. There was those frustrations in the previous administration, if NBC News is to be believed.
Right. But obviously we've never seen anything like what we saw today. But the point that Zelensky was making there is that everyone predicted his demise, and Ukraine was able to fight and to survive. Zelensky was able to survive. The Ukrainian people have been fighting for 3 years. You yourself have said previously that the United States should assist Ukraine as long as the Ukrainians are willing to fight. So I think the question coming out.
Why do people's brain break when you cover this issue? Very simple. American exceptionalism and unimaginable amounts of consent being manufactured in one direction from outlets and institutions that they care about, that they trust for years and years. It's a faucet of propaganda. And when you have a moment where that kind of breaks because Donald Trump is president again, people have two options. Either they desperately try to cling on to the old ways of thinking, or try to re-examine their biases and try to re-examine their social conditioning. And most people don't want to do that. That's it. Like, I don't think most liberals are thirsty for endless war all around the world. I think most Americans are not thinking about it like that. There are certainly, NATO heads on Twitter or whatever who reassert some semblance of American power, and that makes them feel powerful. If you dominate like weak enemies, vulnerable populations, then all of this stuff, the fact that I don't have fucking healthcare means something, That's why they flex on Yemen and post about how, oh, Yemen's going to learn today what it's like why we don't have health care, that sort of stuff. But most Americans don't think like that. I think most Americans are just looking at the situation and hearing over and over and over again that correctly, Ukraine is on the right side and we're on the right side for once. Like, please let us have this. And that, we are bravely and boldly supporting our allies in this regard. And it's actually a selfless endeavor. That's the part that I think is like the biggest lie. The biggest lie that the media tells is that we're selfless. We've never been selfless. There's never been a moment like nation states don't engage in selfless, morally righteous acts. That is not the case. They only operate in the interest of whatever the interest of the nation state is. For America, it's capitalism. So obviously it's always going to be, we are always going to be beholden to capital owners, whether it be the military industrial complex or, any number of different corporate executive and corporate interests. Okay. But that's what it is.
Out of that meeting is what happens next year. I mean, you are the U.S. chief diplomat. Is there a path for diplomacy? Is a ceasefire still a possibility tonight?
Well, number one, you know who else said that Ukraine is very brave and very valiant? President Trump. He said it today. He said it repeatedly. Your soldiers have been very brave. Your fighters have been very brave. Your people have been very brave. He said that repeatedly. And everyone recognizes that. But we're 3 years into a war that has no end in sight and no exit strategy. The EU doesn't have an exit strategy. I saw the comments tonight from the leader of the EU saying there needs a new leader of the free world. I mean, these people are just playing silly games and saying these things. What is their exit strategy? What is anybody else's exit strategy? The only person on the planet who is actively trying to bring an end to this conflict is named Donald Trump, the President of the United States. He's the only one that's trying to do it. And we should be helping him to achieve it. And so do I think it's possible? Yeah, I hope it's possible, because that's what we do try to do at the Department of State is we try to bring end to conflicts, not start new ones, and certainly not extend them.
Senator Lindsey Graham, after having lunch with President Trump today, said Zelensky either needs to resign or they need to send someone over that we can do business with. Do you feel that President Zelensky needs to resign?
Well, that's Lindsey's feeling because he feels very passionately. You know, he's been a very strong supporter of Ukraine. Lindsey Graham has been one of the strongest voices for Ukraine. Well,
Lindsey Graham is lower than dirt, okay? I don't... No. Lindsey Graham does not care about a single Ukrainian life, okay? He does not care, unless, it's maybe someone he's having sex with, but that's besides the point. He only cares about maintaining loyalty to Donald Trump. He is a ginormous ass kisser. Lindsey Graham historically even turned around. He literally historically turned around and sucked up to Donald Trump after Donald Trump shit on his best friend. Okay? Shit on his best friend, the Maverick John McCain. He does not care. Okay? He is just a simple brown noser through and through. That's the only thing he cares about. Lindsey Graham only cares about Lindsey fucking Graham and maybe Israel. He cares about Israel. He is not a principled person.
United States, the president's taken no position on that. What he said today is let him come back when he's ready to do peace. That's what he said. Let him come back when he's ready to do peace. So I can't speak for what anybody else said. I can only go off the words from the president of the United States, and that is today this is not going to be productive any further. When Zelensky's ready to make peace and he's serious about peace, let him come back then. And that's when we'll re-engage with them. And what he means by that is when he understands...
And how will you measure that?
Well, I think it's everything I've said already. And that is, how are you going to get Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation to a table to discuss even the opportunity, even to explore whether there's an opportunity for peace? You're not going to do it by calling them names. It makes everybody feel very good. You can pass resolutions. You can put out very strongly worded statements. Senators can do it. I did when I was in the Senate. House members can do it. Commentators can do it. And countries that have no real skin in the game can do it. But when you are the president of the United States of America and you're trying to bring about peace the way Donald Trump is trying to bring about peace, the only way to do it is you have to create space for people to come to the table and talk. And that is something we should all be applauding, not criticizing. And not pretending that we can just extend this war forever and that everybody has unlimited resources to continue to fund it, on both sides, by the way.
And President Zelensky has said he does want this war to end. He just cares about how it ends. We heard that from the other European leaders who came to the Oval Office also this week. President Trump said to me today, before that shouting match erupted in the Oval Office, that he doesn't believe there have to be security guarantees in place before the ceasefire, that you can come to a ceasefire agreement and then put those in place. Do you agree with that?
That's not what he said. What he said is, why am I going to be talking about security guarantees? Let me get a peace deal first, is what he said. That doesn't mean they can't happen as part of that negotiation, but you have to have an agreement. What peace is there to secure if you first don't have an agreement on peace? Like, what do the Russians need in order to end this conflict?
So you're saying it would happen as part of the negotiations?
Well, again, how do you end a war? You have to find out what the combatants require in order to stop shooting at each other. What are the Russians' needs? What do they need to see in order for them to stop fighting? What do the Ukrainians need in order to stop fighting? And then once you have that in place, then you can decide the next step, which is, and what do we need to do to make sure this never happens again? That it doesn't happen in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I don't think President Trump is interested in a one-year ceasefire.
Okay, my takeaway from this, maybe people get mad at me for saying this, but my takeaway from this is that it seems like they're probably still going to go back and continue with the ceasefire. Like, they're going to get the mineral deal and continue with the ceasefire, and they'll do like back deal assurances to Ukraine that, like, of course, if there's American contractors present there, then obviously, like, that will be the baked in security. Like, that's it. I love your optimism, but come on. I'm not giving you a prediction. Obviously, I would never make predictions on especially Russia related things, but I'm expecting they are doing a mineral deal and Trump will say it's an assurance, but Russia will break it and Trump will say fucking nobody cares and it will just end up like Gaza. I feel like Marco Rubio outside of everybody hyper focuses on Marco Rubio playing the role of defending Trump and like bullying Zelensky. And because of that, they don't hear the parts where he keeps saying, we have to do a ceasefire. We have to do a ceasefire. We have to come to the table. We have to do a ceasefire. And I think that part is more significant. That implies that, either they're just going to cut Ukraine loose, which would be insane, or, they're going to continue with the pre-existing deal. I don't know. I just, like, I don't even know how many minerals Ukraine even has. I feel like this is more so just like to sell this idea to the base that they're like getting something out of it, because Americans are deeply selfish. After years and years of saying Ukraine is bullshit, we shouldn't have given Ukraine a single dime, what are we doing? They're just like, oh yeah, we're getting something out of it, I promise, when they're not really getting too much out of it at all. Like, I think that they see it mostly as like a distraction from, the real villains, which is China. You know what I mean? That lie is probably told towards Trump to make sure he does a deal. Yeah. Like, I don't know how many minerals we have to begin with in Ukraine. You feel me?
I don't think he's interested in a 6-month ceasefire. He wants this thing to end. He has said that repeatedly. But again,
don't know if you saw me post this earlier, but France announced that they were going to open up their arsenal for nuclear deterrence. I think that right there is unironically a world destabilizing moment. Like, Europe deciding to leave the American security partnership is I can't even comprehend what that would look like, especially without like cutting a deal with China or something. You know what I mean? I just don't know. I can't even close my eyes and imagine what that would look like, especially when you think about the historical precedent right there in terms of militarization in Europe. Okay, that's number one. And number two, I mean, a lot of their equipment is equipment that they bought from us, and you know, maybe tweaked a little bit if they have any equipment at all. Sean the Black, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream.
he's not going to use the kind of language that maybe plays well in the public sphere or in the political sphere for people that want to take shots at him, but it's not going to allow us to have a negotiation or even to explore a potential negotiation. President Donald Trump is a man who's made deals his entire life in business, and he's bringing those principles to government, and he's the only one in the world that has any chance. If Donald Trump tomorrow decides, I don't care about Ukraine, I don't care about Russia, and I don't care about this war, and he walks away, I ask you, I ask everyone, well, who on this planet has any chance whatsoever, even a 1% chance of getting the combatants to the table? The answer is there is no one. He is the only one on earth right now that has any chance. If there is a chance at peace, he's the only one that has a chance to deliver on it.
Do you still see a meeting happening with President Putin there, President Zelensky, and President Trump? Is that still possible?
Well, I think that's premature. I mean, what would they? You first need to make sure that this is even a possibility, and you have to explore it. And look, there's good signs, I think, maybe, somewhat about at least the Russians' willingness to engage. And but we have to explore all that. But that's not going to be done in front of cameras. It's not going to be done in an open ballroom. There's a lot of work to be done before we get to this point. This is a complex war that has causes behind it that go back a number of years. There's a lot to navigate. A lot has been invested on both sides. Gains have been made by the Russian Federation in some places. All of these things have to be worked through, but it's not going to be done through press conferences and in the media. It has to be done through what the vice president said today, the serious work of diplomacy. It's a lot easier to just say, well, we're with Ukraine all the way, no matter what, however long it takes. Well, 15 years, 12 years? I mean, that's absurd. That's not sustainable, and everybody knows it. The president wants to end this war. He wants to explore whether there's a possibility to do it and do it quickly. He campaigned on it. It was a promise of his, and he intends to when he says these things, he doesn't just say them, he means them, and he's doing it. And it's the first time we've seen that in a long time in American politics.
Secretary,
what are the chances Trump will just go on meeting with Putin anyways, lift sanctions, let him do whatever in Ukraine for EU to deal with? That would be truly unprecedented. That is unironically,
we want to bring in
how NATO and American hegemony ends.
NBC's chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel, who of course is just back from the front lines in Ukraine. Richard, this quickly became the Oval Office outburst. Seen, heard around the world, obviously in horror in the eyes of many European allies, those in Ukraine as well. What is the reaction in European capitals and in Ukraine to what we just witnessed?
Well, I think you had it exactly right. First, it was shock. This event happened pretty late last night. So the European capitals were already into the evening. They didn't really react to it in real time. But now with the...
Oh, I want to also get back to this ass kisser. To the hand-wringing Europeans who felt offended by President Trump, rejecting being lectured by President Zelensky, be my guest. Defend Ukraine from Putin. It is long past time for the Europeans to show they're capable of defending their own continent. They've allowed their militaries to be hollowed out, and when Europe speaks, no bad guy listens. I say this with great sadness. The last group of people that I would count on to defend freedom are the Europeans.
The passage of a little bit of time, that shock has become horror, and you've seen almost every European country, big and small, put out some sort of statement saying, we express solidarity with Ukraine. You can never blame the victim. You should blame the aggressor. Germany, in particular, taking a very strong stance. One legislator there saying that he was shocked that the United States could stab an ally in the back. Now the Europeans...
Come on, man. Come on, man. Is it really that shocking? When have we not done that? When have we not done that, man? There are very few instances. Actually, there is no instance. Look at World War II. What did we do immediately after World War II? What did we do? Right after World War II, we were like, all right, it's time. It's time. Okay? Israel wasn't stabbed. Israel doesn't count. It is an extension of America. Israel is not an ally. Israel is America. Okay? It's just more America. There is no moment where America has not stabbed their allies in the back. Stab in the back myth part 2 just dropped. Even the Marshall Plan ended up undermining the European economy. There has never been a moment, okay? We saved Europe with our military and rebuilt it with the Marshall Plan. Okay, great. There was a very profound and very important reason for why we did that. We did that so we could use Europe for the next 100 years as a cum sock. Look at Europe right now. Look, I mean, it's a very funny time to say that. Obviously, that chatter is joking. Like, he's taking the position of a hog, but like, once again, why did we do that? I mean, look at where that allegiance has led Europe to. A lot of us Europeans had high expectations of Trump. Now we're all terribly disappointed. Wait, what? I'm European and I'm disappointed in Trump. I trusted him. I expected solid policies and the creation of a quality peace agreement. This is a real disaster and a disappointment. How do we have fell for it again awards for Europeans? I thought this was a truly American hog thing. I didn't realize that Europeans also had their own version of the fell for it again award. No way. Nah, Europeans hate. Europeans have like a pan-European supremacist attitude in general. I don't think that they would ever look at a crass guy like Donald Trump and ever see him as a positive. That is hard to believe.
Europeans are trying not just to show Zelensky's support, but they're trying to potentially replace the United States as the
Europeans don't even like Democrats. Europeans don't like any American politician, let alone someone like Trump.
The key diplomatic player, the key backer of Ukraine. And Keir Starmer in the UK, you said Zelensky just arrived in London. It is because the UK is now trying to organize.
Trump is still better than Holocaust Harris? Come on, dude. Come on. I mean, the most I will give credence to is that, like, American foreign policy is bipartisan regardless of who is wearing the hat, okay? The idea that Trump, come on. In terms of maintaining American dominance and proceeding to find a manageable exit from Ukraine, I think that the Democrats most likely would have played a softer game. They would have kept these conversations behind closed doors, you know? Or maybe even forced Ukraine's hand to lowering their age of conscription to 18. I don't know. One or the other.
Organize an emergency summit. And Zelensky did put out a series of messages this morning on social media thanking President Trump, thanking the United States repeatedly, but insisting that they need security guarantees. They can't just take Vladimir Putin's word for it that he will stop the invasion, that he won't invade Ukraine again. Ukraine said, and President Zelensky has said time and time again, Putin's words aren't to be believed. They're not to be trusted. We need security guarantees. President Trump clearly doesn't want to provide them, and had this outburst when Zelensky kept pressing the point, and he was called, being disrespectful to the office. Europe is now trying to turn its shock and horror into some sort of action, but it is not likely, Peter, that the Europeans are going to take this burden and be able to shoulder it alone. They still need American participation. It is the essential partner.
So then, Richard, is there any hope that this gets repaired, that this relationship can get patched up?
Well, I think it really depends on whether this incident was a setup. Was he ambushed? And some have suggested that. Many people I've been speaking to have suggested that that Trump and Vance were looking for a fight, and that President Zelensky rose to it. If they were looking for a fight and they got one, then it would be unlikely that you're going to have any real reconciliation. What we just saw was a definitive break between President Zelensky and the United States. If it was just tempers and emotions that ran high, big personalities all in one room, then it is possible. But in Europe, they're not sure. In Europe, they're saying maybe this was the definitive break.
If together we cannot put enough pressure on Moscow, then how can we claim that we can defeat China? EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas continues to fire with her words.
Росія така непереможний, що, до речі, не відповідає дійсності.
Sick. Yeah, these guys will never learn. Okay. You know what? I'm just kicking back. I'm just kicking back and just watching. Okay. Europe hates China. I'm telling you. No, I know they do. I know they do. I know that. I know that. Okay. You know what? Let's see what happens, dude. Let's see what happens. Because these guys are these guys will cling on to the American teat till the very last breath. Okay. Doors open. Doors open. Doors open. Okay. The documentary people are here, by the way. So we're going to switch gears from Ukraine to another place of American depravity, Israel, Palestine. 1 second. I'm going to invite them in and also bring some chairs in as well. Okay. While I continue with this.
You have full backing across the United Kingdom.
For you guys, hold on.
And we stand with you, with Ukraine, for as long as it may take. And I hope you heard some of that. Cheering in the street, that is the people of the United Kingdom coming out to demonstrate how much they support you, how much they support Ukraine, and our absolute determination to stand with you, unwavering determination, and to achieve what we both want to achieve, which is a lasting peace for Ukraine based on sovereignty and security for Ukraine. So important for Ukraine, so important for Europe, and so important for the United Kingdom. So I'm much looking forward to our discussions here this afternoon. Thank you very much for making the time to come.
With pleasure. Thank you very much, Keir. Mr. Prime Minister, happy to be here. And really, I saw a lot of people, and I want to thank you, people of the United Kingdom, such big support from the very beginning of this war. Thank you, your team. And I'm very happy that His Majesty the King accepted my meeting tomorrow, and I'm thankful that you organized such a great summit for tomorrow. And we are very happy in Ukraine that we have such strategic partners. We signed with you historic documents.
100-year agreement.
Yeah, we have only with you such documents with the United Kingdom. So we're happy, and we count on your support. And really, we're really happy that we have such partners and such friends.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
My absolute priority will be to strengthen Europe as quickly as possible, so that step by step we can really achieve independence from the United States.
Von Donald Trump ist klar, dass den Amerikanern
But at the very least, after Donald Trump's statements last week, it is clear that the Americans, at least this part of the Americans in this administration, are largely indifferent to the fate of Europe.
В Третій світовій війні ми, як українці, живемо, якщо з 14-го року так ще, в легкій формі. Другого року ми живемо в ній постійно. Нас вбивають. Тому Зеленський те, що сказав, що Путіну не може довіряти, це дуже м'яко сказав. Ми бажаємо і знаємо, що йому не просто не може довіряти, їх треба знищити як імперію.
Думаю, що Трамп вже зрозумів, що Зеленський – це той президент, який...
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have some very special guests here today. Here, I'll play the trailer first and foremost for No Other Land. Okay, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, No Other Land is a documentary. Here, let's just start off with this real quick. This was the Berlin Air trailer, and then we'll...
1,000 Palestinians face one of the single biggest expulsion decisions since the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territories began.
هاي قصة عن القوة.
أنا اسمي باسم.
مسافر يطا هي المكان اللي كبرت فيه. بداية تصويري هي بداية نهايتنا.
This is what's happening in my village now. Soldiers are everywhere.
يكون كثير حلو إذا بصير استقرار. بعدين انتوا بتيجوا تزوروني مش انا بزوركم. ولا شو تفكر؟ لو انت مكاني شو تفكر؟
Documentary is called No Other Land. We are joined by Hamdan Bilal and Basel Adra, the filmmakers, and it is nominated for Best Documentary at the Oscars tomorrow. Thank you guys for taking some time out to come and join us on the broadcast. I've had Motaz Zaiza in the past before as well. When did you guys get in?
Thank you for having us. Pleasure. We arrived in LA yesterday.
Okay. How do you like it so far?
Looks beautiful. We like it.
That's it. Okay. Beautiful is not something I've ever heard people say about Los Angeles, so that's cool. You're gonna have to get close to the microphone as well, by the way, just so you know. It's a complicated process, but do they want to hear something? No, it's Ramadan chatters. They're fasting. I'm a bad Muslim, so they sorry. So they think, you know, they want me to be polite and give you guys. Wait, is there buzzing on one of the microphones? No, there isn't. It doesn't. There's a buzz or high pitch when the orange microphone is used. Wait, really? Wait, can you speak into it?
Hello? Hi?
It's fine. No, I hear it. Okay. Well, regardless. All right. Well, I don't know how to fix it. So it's it's really bad. It's a small buzz. Okay. I don't know. I don't know how to fix it in real time. Sorry. So it might be a little bit. It's fine. Okay. Regardless, there's there's 30,000 people watching right now, so they're going to be very annoying. I'm just letting you guys know. But yeah, like I said, thank you so much for coming. And so let's talk about how this initially started. Like, what led you to film some of these experiences as growing up in occupied Palestinian territory in the West Bank?
Yeah, so we both coming from a small community called Masafir Yatta in the southern occupied West Bank. It's, for those who don't know, Area C, which is fully controlled by the Israeli military forces. They control everything about our life. And there they are all the time not trying, but actually stealing our land to build more and more of illegal settlements and outposts, bringing in Jewish settlers from all over the world to live in it, while they are, since decades, and still persist, trying to destroy and destroying a big part of our homes and communities in order to force us leave our homeland. So we basically grew up in this horrific situation where every day we have to suffer from the occupation, and every day we have to witness something from this brutal occupation reminding us that we are living a normal life and we are under this situation that nobody in the world stopping it from going on. So when we became teenagers, we started to hold cameras in our hands and run in the field, in our homes, in our villages, with our neighbors, with the shepherds, with the school students, filming what these crimes going on the ground from settlers and from soldiers. And basically, it began we didn't have an idea of making a movie. We just wanted the people to know that we exist in this part of land. We want people to see what's actually happening to our life, because every time there is bulldozers entering our community, destroying homes and properties and leave, it's not even interested for journalists, for the people. It's became a routine of our life. While for us, it's not a routine. It's a new suffering. It's a new family who losing their home and their structure. their shelters. And all of the time we have been looking for different ways how we can make this footage and this evidence that we are taking on the ground seen by the world. And we wanted people to care about us, about what's happening. So we used sometimes social media. We have written articles about what's happening. And 5 years ago, we have been joined by other 2 Israeli journalists, activists, who came to Masafir Yatta for the first time, wanted to write also about what's going on. And it became interested for them, and they want to come more and more. And in the first few times we met Hamdan, who actually was the first one who mentioned the idea. Guys, what do you think of we can make a documentary out of all the footage that we have? None of us actually has experience in doing a long documentary, but we decided, the 4 of us, and agreed to go and take this experience and journey together. So we started 5 years ago, a lot of challenges, sometimes fun, a lot of troubles, facing physical violence and threats and pressure for our work. And last February, for first time, we have screened.
Wait, it's cutting out a little bit. Yeah, you gotta get really close into the microphone. Sorry.
Yes, fine. And the rally was the first step and first time we premiered No Other Land. And it have been 1 year, and now we are in LA, nominated for the Oscar as a best documentary.
Yeah. Wait, let me also, let's see. I'm trying to plug it in and unplug it and then replug it. Maybe it'll fix it. Sometimes.
I think we can do this.
Sometimes. Okay. We can do that too. Hold on. Here, try it again.
Hey, hello.
Can you guys hear him? Is it better? Or does the green one works? No, it's not better. It's fixed. Okay. The green one sounds good. All right. You know what? Let's just do that. Let's just use one mic. Okay. Sorry, this is not the most professional setup. If I'm being real, unfortunately. Hold on, I think that's the second one. So test it by speaking to it.
Hi, hello.
Okay, yeah, it should be. All right, we're good. We're good. All right, we're not going to use the second microphone. Okay, so a couple questions. So Americans are not very knowledgeable about what's going on in Gaza, let alone the West Bank. They don't even know that these are both Palestinian territories that are occupied by Israel as a belligerent occupier. So do you want to explain to them what the differences are between Gaza and the West Bank? Yeah.
Well, the differences between Gaza and the West Bank, Israel has occupied Gaza, West Bank, East Jerusalem, and part of Jordan, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon in 1967, and then there was sort of agreements with Jordan, Egypt, where they returned their land back, and Israel still occupying part of Lebanon land and Syrian land, also in Palestine, Gaza, East Jerusalem, and the West Bank. And in the beginning of the 80s, or in the middle of the 70s to the beginning of the 80s, they started building settlements and bringing, first it was like military occupation, and then they started building settlements and bring in Jewish settlers, civilians to live in those settlements after they steal land from the Palestinians. And it continued in this way, with a lot of sufferings for sure, because we live under a foreign military control that try to as much as they can to push us out of our land, as we call it as Palestinians, ongoing Nakba, because the Nakba continue, but with different methods. The catastrophe that happened in 1948, it kind of continuing basically until today, but in different forms, in different, they're using different terms, different law, but in the end of the day, it's about stealing our land as Palestinians and give it to those settlers and building more and more Israeli settlements and outposts, and all the time talking about annexations, not annexations. When Trump was a president in the last term, he, for example, gave Israel or announced that Hayat Golan, it's Israeli land, and also make East Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And this is how Israel is creating facts on the ground until the international community will be forced, or America will help them and would be forced to accept that this became Israel. So all the talk about two-state solution, they kind of did, because there is like Israel changed all the facts on the ground. They divided Gaza from the West Bank. We can't go to Gaza. People from Gaza can't come to the West Bank. It's totally divided. Israelis control all the borders around the West Bank and around Gaza. None of the Palestinians can go out and enter without permission of the army. In 2005, Israel withdrew from Gaza and took the settlers that were living there, but kept Gaza under Israeli control. All the borders were controlled. People in Gaza were under besieged for 17 years, but they continued in the West Bank until today, like building more and more settlements and checkpoints and roads, military bases. And basically this, like one of the reasons is to prevent us as Palestinians to have our own independent state.
Yeah. And my analysis on it is that Israel kept purposefully utilizing a two-state solution that they were not really interested in the so-called peace process, in an effort to continue pushing it down the line further and further. And in some instances, like Netanyahu, for example, was very forthcoming, very honest about it too. He would say, it's never going to happen, or that we're not interested, or I'm going to push it back. While simultaneously, the number of settlers in the West Bank grew to now 750,000 over the course of the past 3 decades.
Yeah, there was also agreement that where the Palestinian Liberation Movement has signed it and decided to become a Palestinian Authority. That's because America played a role and a key to have agreement and to create two-state solution. And that's what the PLO agreed to and signed in and became a Palestinian Authority and recognized Israel as a state, while Israel did totally the opposite. And like totally opposite, I mean, did not recognize Palestine as a state and kept the occupation and kept building more and more settlements and outposts and escalated the situation until today. And the thing that why Israel was able to do this, because the US were like the key player on this and make the Palestinian Authority or the PLO sign such an agreement that they will guarantee it, and they would prevent Israel from continue the occupation and building settlements and outposts. And what happened all the past 30 years, totally the opposite, where Israel were allowed and supported and funded and got military support as much as they want to continue of the building of settlements and outposts and put Gaza under siege and checkpoints in the West Bank and all the crimes that have been committed, and they have no single consequences from the international community. And America, Europe, that allowed this to reach till today, because Israel were only receiving some condemnations on social media, statements here and there, but no actions on the ground to stop Israel from moving forward of like with its apartheid system to kill the two-state solution. And at the end of the last year, there was a law that passed in the Israeli parliament where they directly and clearly and fully said there will never be a Palestinian state.
Yeah.
And the world is silent.
Yeah. Do you feel like things have changed post October 7 in terms of a lot more recognition coming from the Western world in terms of like understanding the position of Palestinians? Because at least like I'm Turkish. I grew up in Turkey. I've always, it's a little bit different from my upbringing. So, because I always knew what was going on. But over the past 10 years, as a political commentator, I have always been pro-Palestinian emancipation, pro-Palestine. But I never saw this level of support from everyday citizens in the Western world. This is, it does seem like there is somewhat of a tide shift in that regard. Do you also feel that way, or
we definitely feel it, and we see it. The Palestinians were like seeing all the students who are protesting and feel that there are people who cares about them. The protest in the street and the campus in Europe as well, in the street, the people. There was a wave of support, and it continued, I guess, until today. In some of the countries, there was even European countries who was brave enough, like Spain, and Norway and different other countries that recognize the state of Palestine. But we ask ourselves as well that does this support that we are gaining today in the public opinion worth the price that the Palestinians paid in Gaza? I mean, this is an important question to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
The Palestinians like paid very, very high price. We're talking about tens of thousands of people who were like slaughtered, and almost 70% to 80% of Gaza is flattened, and there is like a chance that the war will start again, and I wish not. So you say yes, there is like in the public opinion a support to the Palestinians, but unfortunately in the government they keep the same support to Israel and using the
Hold on, I'm gonna just change your noise gate real quick so that they can hear you because it keeps cutting out. 1 second. Chatters they're congratulating you for your award on the documentary, or the nomination for the documentary as well. 1 second. Okay, it should be fine now. Going forward, they'll just hear everything that you say, won't cut out, and hopefully people won't get annoyed. Okay, so today we're also raising money for the No Other Land Rebuilding Alliance fundraiser. Do you want to talk about that a little bit as well?
Hi, everyone. My name is Adam Ramadan. I'm the Deputy Director for Rebuilding Alliance. I guess some background on Rebuilding Alliance. We've been working in Palestine and Gaza and the West Bank for over 20 years now. The founder and executive director, Donna Baranski-Walker, started Rebuilding Alliance to rebuild the house that Rachel Corrie was murdered protecting, the Nasrallah's house in Gaza. And she was actually successful in rebuilding their house in Gaza. Unfortunately, that house has been demolished this past war since October 7th. So, that's just more reason for us to continue our efforts and do what we're doing best. To talk more about the work we do in Gaza, we have over 20 kitchens. We're feeding over 70,000 people a day. That was in partnership with the World Food Program. Unfortunately, that contract is coming to an end. So we have to take, all the financial responsibility to ensure that these kitchens are still running. So that's one of the reasons why we started this fundraiser. We also do, we have different educational programs. We have pop-up temporary, like as they call them in Gaza, temporary learning spaces since there are no schools. We do hire teachers that worked as teachers to help, put together any kind of program to ease the situation of the children in Gaza at this moment. We've had partners prior to October 7th that's been running, community kitchens and running programs to support social health like that. So, and also in the West Bank, the work that we do in the West Bank, specifically in the Hebron Hills, we have social workers there that do activities for young children that are traumatized from the experiences they've had with the IDF and the Israeli soldiers. We also, one of the biggest aspects of our work is we do congressional trips to the West Bank. So we actually take members of Congress to Palestine, and we let them go through the experience of what a Palestinian would go through every single day. So that's just a quick overview of the work that we do. We're excited to help Basil and Hamdan and their family with the visa to come here to the States to hopefully celebrate their victory and winning the Oscars tomorrow.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Can you elaborate on that, on the difficulties of such a thing? Because I think a lot of people don't understand, like, it's not very easy for Palestinians from the West Bank to be able to travel freely. And as far as I understand, there's also issues with even returning once you leave the West Bank. Yeah. Israel has so much control over this territory that it legally occupies that there have been instances, for example, where American congresspersons have been barred from entering the West Bank to visit their family members, like Rashida Tlaib is one of the famous examples of the level of power and influence that Israel has over the lives of Palestinians, but also even the lives of Americans. Is there, like, Do you want to go through that a little bit?
I mean, there's no secret. We're a registered nonprofit. We follow all the laws and rules and the regulations that are set forth in the U.S. and abroad. So we do our best to follow the procedures and regulations that are put forth for us to follow. There's no secret. There's no magic to it. It's just a matter of following what they have. Whatever they put forward works. So there's no reason to go around it or make it more complicated. So that's what we do. We follow the process and trust that it'll work.
Yeah. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you was about your day-to-day experiences with the Israeli occupying force. Like, if you could give if you could elaborate on your personal experiences of like how the Israeli occupying forces will restrict your travel, for example, things that people might not be aware of.
Yeah, in terms of borders, we know like all borders between Jordanian River to the Mediterranean Sea are controlled by the Israeli forces. Palestinians doesn't control any type of border, like to go to travel outside or to come back to their homes. Everything is controlled by the Israeli soldiers. So yeah, a lot of Palestinians are banned also to travel outside, and the millions of Palestinian refugees that have lost their homes and have been like ethnically cleansed in the Nakba or in the 67 are not allowed to go back to their homes until today. In the day-to-day life under the occupation, like I would say, the best example, people watch No Other Land, and sadly until now we don't have a distribution in the US. We had me and my friend Hamdan and colleague in this work put so much efforts and take so much risks on our life, on our homes, to document this evidence, to find out that distributors in the US doesn't want to take one step of courage to take such a movie and to show to the people. And the people in the US must know what's happening, because their countries is a key player. Their money actually is doing what is doing to us, and they should know what's going on with their money on our life. Why village like mine can't have clean water pipe to drink a water, or we can't build a school or electricity, or Hamdan, for example, has home demolition order on his home and can be destroyed at any moment today, and actually the whole village where he lives. And this is sad that the people until today does not know what's going on or what's their government supports. And for that, we come with this movie. We're doing tours. We're bringing it to theaters, and hopefully distributors in the US will take it and show it to the people.
Yeah, No Other Land does not have a U.S. distributor, but is still the year's highest-grossing Oscar-nominated documentary. Back in February, or I guess a couple days ago, it had grossed so far as $420,000. Also, briefly, I do want to say we are now. Wait, we might have actually broken the website. Oh, we're at. We've passed the $25,000 goal, by the way, for No Other Land Rebuilding Alliance fundraiser. So, good job, chatters. Of course.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing, basically, in terms of the endless cruelty that I think the American government and our tax dollars subject Palestinians to, but everyone here tries to help to the best of their ability, Anyway, aside from, I wanted to talk about like your day-to-day experiences. Aside from the destruction of the villages, a lack of access to clean water supply, and things of that nature that are gross human rights violations. Like, what does that do for your psyche in general, like existing under a foreign occupation on a day-to-day basis, like having no legal recourse, for example?
Yeah, in the beginning, this is like our land, so we have to be strong, and you feel you are in your land, and you are we are under occupation. We understand that, and there is no moment you feel you are safe. And when you grow up and under this laws against the humanity from the occupation, your experience, it's like born with you. You grow up to think how you live under the occupation. And also, when you get the experience from what you see, like me, I saw the first demolition for my house, I was 7 years old. So when you ask what the experience and what you did like a kid, when you saw your house demolition and destroyed, I can't explain that moment. And when I saw everything, my tent, my caves, they destroyed it. And I saw my family, it's like outside, become homeless. But after it's like 1 hour, 2 hours, when my dad, he came to me and he started to spoke with me about the house. He started to tell me, okay, they will destroy the house. I will rebuilding again. So that's from this people that came, how the trust and also it's like thinking all the time there is a hope. We will get it, inshallah. So and also when we spoke about how we live without clean water and without food or something, no, we have it's like different ways, yeah. But it's like we will digging in the ground and makes like well water and collected the rainwater, and step by step it's like became clean. But another thing also, the Israeli occupation, they didn't let us also, it's like digging the water well. So, but we will never, for me, I grew up all my life, I didn't see the Palestinian people, they are give up. So they continue, they destroyed my village like 7 times, and then we're building again. So that's give you, it's like early experience.
Yeah. So you're saying that it starts off instantly when you're a child, basically, and you recognize the cruelty that the Israeli government is subjecting the Palestinian people to, but you persevere and you just kind of find a way and continue
to still alive.
Surviving. Yeah. Some of the things that I have read about on the matter is the systematic destruction, and also the ways in which like even collecting rainwater is seen as like inappropriate, and oftentimes by the Israeli government, like they'll break the water towers as well from time to time. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's many times
and destroy the wells too.
Yeah, destroy the water walls. Destroy the network by water. You know, everything you do, you will try to do it in Masafer Yatta. Okay, it's like already they came and destroyed it. So and also they changed, it's like many laws. Okay, I spoke, it's like Israeli laws, the occupation laws. To be, it's like, yani, that's illegal when they destroyed your house. Okay, they start. I will. It's like let us spoke about the ordered demolitions. In the beginning, you have it's like when they give you the order demolition for your house, or you have 2 weeks to go to the court and make a case against this. But they change it now. It's becomes like 96 hours. Mm-hmm. And 96 hours, they came on Wednesday, example, they give you the orders, and there is just like a holiday, 2 days, and then you don't have a time to prepare your papers or something like this. So, and then they came, destroyed it. So they destroyed just like everything you try to building, everything you, if you want like digging water well or network water, they came and destroyed it. And not just destroyed it. After they destroyed the network, they confiscated the pipes with them. Mm-hmm. You can imagine like this moment when you saw like these people who they destroyed the network and then they take it with them. They didn't give you, it's like, one opportunity to fix it again.
Yeah. It's virtually impossible for Palestinians to get construction permits. From what I understand, it's about like 98% of the construction permits that Palestinians apply for in terms of building wells or any sort of like water supply is denied, rejected by the Israeli government.
Yeah, this number was before this government, I think, the 90%, and now it's for sure 100% that we are declined to apply any, or if we apply, it's declined. The thing is, as I said, it's like an occupation that does want to steal our land. So now they're weaponizing, not just now, but they always have been weaponizing the law itself against us to make us existing on our land illegal. Like illegal to build a home or a school or a clinic or a street or water pipe or electricity, to have any life requirement that we build on our land. They will say it's illegal and they will come to destroy it. And the Western world mostly was, and still unfortunately, buying these lies that it's Palestinians doing illegal stuff, we are enforcing the law. But the law actually is written by Israeli commander, you know. And in this game, soldiers, court, government, settlers working hand to hand, and it's completing. They complete each other for one goal, which is to legalize the Israeli settlements and outposts and settlers projects, and to legalize anything about us as a Palestinians living in this land. And talking about Area C, Masaf Riyadh is part of it. It's 60% of the whole West Bank. So for that, they are like transferring or forcibly displacing us from our homes and taking it for the interests of settlements and settlers, but in the long term, you know, for that to annex it for the or now maybe Trump will announce to the annexation in one of his speeches. And it's sad because for a long time, as you know, the Western media, they were biased, you know, there was not a real cover about what's going on the ground, and they buy what the Israeli, for example, army spokesperson would say, okay, they destroyed the school in this village, why you destroy it? Because it's illegal. And our narrative was not heard, and we don't have almost a place to talk about our stories. Now it's different nowadays. We have we have people like beside us, people like you talking about Palestine. We are making this movie, and other people around the world are talking up and speaking up about what's happening. But so far, unfortunately, we are not winning on the ground, because everything is dropped fast to be worse and worse. As you know, like 2 days after the ceasefire took place in Gaza, the Israeli occupation forces announcing a military campaign in the West Bank, and focused mainly on Tubas refugee camp, Jenin refugees camp, and Tulkarem refugees camp. So far, they displaced 50,000 people out of their homes, and they're like burning some of the homes or like blowing them up and destroying them. As well, the whole West Bank under a siege. Like we used to travel from the southern part of the West Bank to get to the border, and worst case would be 3 hours. Today, the best case would be from 7 to 10 hours. There is checkpoints almost in every entrance to village, to a town, to a city, and each city from the another is divided with the metal gates. Soldiers are there 24/7 on these gates. You would see thousands of lines of cars waiting and being humiliated. My brother, who came and traveled for the first time in the U.S., want to join for the ceremony tomorrow. He was stopped at the checkpoint. They checked his phone by chance, and they found that in TikTok he uploaded one video from Masaf Riyadh. They forced him to wait in the checkpoint and to be detained almost 3 hours and to be humiliated and attacked by the soldiers. And this happened to thousands and thousands of Palestinians across the West Bank since October 7th, to humiliating people for posting any political thing, or to have like a flag of Palestine in their car, or like wearing a shirt that have anything politically Palestine or something. So we're living really in very difficult situation.
Yeah.
That it never was like this.
Yeah, I mean, difficult is right. As far as I understand, they've also completely shut off Tulkarem. Like they've bulldozed the entry points into Tulkarem, and are likely gearing up for even further incursions into it with, I guess.
And Jenin, like they brought tanks that since 20 years it didn't happen. And the other day, you have Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, going in Tulkarem with the Israeli soldiers, and he sat in a house where the family were like displaced. And for us, it's shocking. Like, this person have arrest warrants from the International Criminal Court, and he's still able to come to the U.S. and talk about democracy and about law and about human rights, and he's hosted I mean, this is really crazy and insane. The hypocrisy today by the some of the Western governments and in the U.S. It's not anymore undercover. You know.
Yeah. Now, in order for Western audiences to understand, imagine if Vladimir Putin was sitting inside of an Eastern Ukrainian home and saying like, "Oh, this is our new military bunker," and it's just the home of a displaced Ukrainian person, and they're just kind of sitting there and openly flexing.
Yeah. Or come to visit the U.S. and the president to give him a chair to sit.
Yeah. Oh, that too. Exactly. I mean, exactly. That would be unimaginable. I mean, that's not even a thing. Well, I think that it is. It's mostly because everything that Israel is doing, it's doing for America. Like, I think that this dynamic exists not only because a lot of wealthy donors have given Trump, including Miriam Adelson, who's given Donald Trump $100 million, and Sheldon, before he died, gave last time around hundreds of millions of dollars to the Trump campaign. But beyond that, I think America uses Israel as a military base to dominate the region, and seemingly they see Palestinians as getting in the way of Israel having complete control over the region.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane how Trump sometimes would use words that Israel is too tiny or too small and should like make it bigger, or like we will take Gaza or like displace 2 million people. From there, like people like Netanyahu and others in the Israeli governments and the army motivated more. Even these things are in their minds and they're working in it. But today they got the president of the most almost power on the world backing them in these crimes and calling them in very clear way, you know.
Yeah. And you know, haven't shaken away from the unlimited support that they've given to Israel, including sending bulldozers as well, and another $3 billion of weapon shipments that Donald Trump gave to Israel without congressional review 2 days ago, yesterday, while also telling Zelensky, you know, go away, you know, kicking Zelensky out of the White House, while simultaneously saying like, we're America first, we don't have enough money for Ukraine, and then turning around and giving Israel $3 billion on the same day is pretty obvious where America's attention is, and what they want to allow Israel to do. Having said all of that, where do you foresee all of this going? Because there are some people who think that there is if Israel, without forcing every single Palestinian away from the West Bank or away from Gaza, and that's virtually impossible without complete full-blown Holocaust-style activities, would have to bring the Palestinians into Israel, like with citizenship. And then that would make it impossible for them to deny the apartheid. Do you feel like that's the worst-case scenario? Like, is there...
I don't think Israel will do that, and if they will do that, it's still apartheid system, because the apartheid system exists between the river to the sea for all the Palestinians in different levels, for sure. The Palestinians who hold even Israeli citizenship under the system of apartheid, because in the end of the day, Israel sees them as Palestinians and they treat them in that way. A lot of demolitions happening inside the Green Line for the Palestinians that having Israeli citizenship in the Negev, whole communities.
Yeah.
One community called Al Araqib, over than 250 times have been like bulldozed, and those are Palestinians with
Israeli citizenship.
But you would never ever see Israel doing this to Israeli kibbutz or settlement or whatever you want to call it, to bulldozer it or to kick like Jewish people out of it and to destroy their homes
and then replace those villages with Palestinians.
Exactly.
That would never happen.
So it's
Oh, also we've reached double the amount on the fundraiser. It's now at $50,000 as of now for the No Other Land Rebuilding Alliance fundraiser. So congratulations, chat. Good job. You're making me a little proud after all the annoying things that you were saying initially about the audio and the microphone. So, you know, we might not be the most professional system here, but we make do. So you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but would you be willing to explain to a Western audience, like, what the dynamic between the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian people are, because from my estimation, it seems like the Palestinian Authority in many instances is operating as a part of the Israeli security apparatus, operating sometimes alongside Israel.
Yeah, so the Palestinian Authority was founded because, like, according to Oslo agreement, and this agreement should have been like terminally, and then Palestine should be state, you know, where it has to control all the area, East Jerusalem, West Bank, and Gaza. But in the agreement, they divided the West Bank to Area A, B, and C. Area B, where the Palestinian Authority should have the full control. In Area B, they control the civil part of the Area B, and Area C is fully controlled by the Israeli military forces for 5 years, and then Israel should withdraw, and all this, the West Bank should be one area controlled by the Palestinian Authority. Unfortunately, you know, Rabin was killed. The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu became a minister, and he stopped this and say, we are not like working on this like with this agreement, and we will not withdraw from the West Bank until today. In fact, they, as we know, kept growing these settlements and outposts, and he created a fact on the ground. It was like what was there, he kept it, and he changed the facts on the interests of his government, his country, his people, for the settlers in the West Bank. And the Palestinian Authority, unfortunately, accepted and continue to deal with the facts as much as they change on the ground, which is bad for the Palestinians. And until today, until they became very powerless in front of the Israelis, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that anytime the Israeli army want to go in Area A, and they does, before October 7th, every night there is invasions by the Israeli military forces toward Area A and arresting people from their homes, and no response from the Palestinian Authority. In fact, according to Oslo agreement, they don't have to show up when the Israeli military are in the streets in Area A. They have to be in their offices.
Yeah.
And this is how it kept go on, the situation. Unfortunately, they start to say recently, before 2 months almost, that in like they want to protect the West Bank, so the same thing doesn't happen like Israel is doing in Gaza, and they start to blame the Palestinian fighters in the refugees camps. So the authorities start to go,
who have a legal right, for the record, in like the Jenin brigades, and he's not saying that, I'm saying that for the record, but they have a legal right under international law to engage in armed resistance against a foreign occupier, a belligerent occupier. That is like technically legal. What Israel is doing, everything Israel is doing in the West Bank is completely illegal. There is not a single thing that Israel does in the West Bank that is legal. It is entirely illegal. Not only is it morally repugnant, abhorrent, but it's also completely illegal. Whereas resisting against that is completely legal. Make no mistake.
Yeah, so they start arrest people, and a bunch of people have been killed as well by the Palestinian Authority security. And even though they did this 2 days after the ceasefire took place in Gaza, Israel invade the West Bank and almost doing the same thing as they were doing in Gaza. And for sure, since the invasion started, which is 2 days after the ceasefire in Gaza, the Palestinian Authority withdrew to give, like, the place is now under this like Israeli military campaign.
Yeah. So aside from the additional like the almost Gazification of West Bank in terms of Israeli military action, how do you feel about, I mean, do you feel like putting yourself out there in this way, do you fear that you might suffer repercussions from the Israeli government?
Well, I suffered. I was physically different times, not just me, but other activists on the ground, like, have been subject of physical attacks for holding camera and filming what's going on. My family was different times subject of physical attacks, arrests for me, for my father. Our homes have been invaded several times. They came sometimes particularly to confiscate cameras from our homes that we used to film in the field. Also, there was media campaigns against me by Israeli mainstream and on social media. Yeah, I am fear, but it's
What do they
something-
say?
And there was like, I can tell you the story. In 2021, there was a first like kind of big pogrom by Israeli settlers against a small village next to our village. Almost from 60 to 80 masked Israeli settlers with sticks, with rifles, with dogs, with like they have almost everything, and they start to go home after home in that village, smashing windows, doors, properties, attacking people and cars, anything they could. They were stabbing water tanks, the tires of like their cars and tractors, and smashing the vehicles in the community. The Israeli army were backing them, shooting at any Palestinians try to react to protect themselves. It's scenes that in my life were the first time to see them, and I was able to film for a while, like 3 to 4 minutes, if I can remember, before at least 10 settlers start to chase me to try to take the camera and throwing stones at me, and hardly I made it and I ran away. And I saw families, like women and children, like fleeing from their homes while settlers continue to destroy the community. These settlers were able to flip to upside down one of the vehicles, while soldiers are watching and waiting for any Palestinians to approach to shoot at him or at her. And that was for 1 hour, almost 1 hour, the attack, before more Palestinians joined and start to call the police. We're calling the police, but they start to arrive and more forces. And in kind of the situation were calmed, and settlers start to walk back to the outpost after they almost destroyed everything and hit one 3-year-old child with a rock in his head, and he was seriously attacked and transferred to the hospital. In that moment, what happened, there was like one of the tear gas starting a fire on a wood that the family collect for the winter, you know, because we use a stove of like for the winter fire stove. And I called the soldiers that there is fire here, you have to stop it. They ignore me and walk, and then I start to shout at the guys from the community to bring water. And then when the guys take water and start to run, soldiers came and they start to tell me, you start the fire. I tell him, you start the fire. And after 1 week, because this pogrom and this attack with the video that I took was everywhere, and they couldn't lie about it. They couldn't deny it because it was everywhere in the media. A lot of journalists come and talk about what happened to this community. So 1 week after, this soldier that was telling me I start the fire, I'm telling him you start the fire, had a GoPro camera on his body, and he took this clip, passed it to the settlers passed it to Channel 12 in Israel, which is mainstream media. And they said this activist Bassel Adra started a fire on a Palestinian home to accuse the Jews of, when they victimize themselves, they don't mention Israelis, the Jews, started the fire. And in fact, there was no fire at any home. The fire were like in a wood, a place. And this is like made me a subject of virtual attacks by like Israeli like journalists and like settlers and right wing and all of this.
Yeah. Oh no, I can't say how I feel. I can't be as honest as I want to in this moment, but I'm sorry that happened. That's fairly commonplace across the board. It's nothing in comparison to your experiences, but yes, if you do defend Palestinians and their humanity in any capacity, even in the Western world, regardless of your background, you could be a Christian, you could be Jewish in America, and they will still say you are a terrorist, you love terrorism, even though that is such a ridiculous thing to say in this dynamic, considering that the terror is America and Israel. Israel is the one that's doing the terrorism. Everything that you've described from your own personal experience and everything that we've read about, that humanitarian rights organizations work to unearth and to show to the rest of the world is indeed definitionally true terror. But it's being dished out by the United States of America and Israel, so it's never considered terrorism, even when the ICC sees it as terrorism, even when the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, sees it as terrorism. So I have two questions. One, let's say this is a Western audience. Let's say that there are people who are in Israel, because I have Israeli fans as well. They're leftists, they're anti-Zionists, but if there was anything that you could say to someone living in Israel who is entertaining the notion of joining the IDF, what would you tell them?
I don't know if I want to, if I am the right person to tell them. They mean that the people going to the IDF, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because for us, they are the ones committing those things to us. So things are clear there on the ground. You know, it's not like I am here, I'm talking to you. When you are on the ground, you understand more and better, and the only reason you would continue doing so, what you are doing, is just if you are a racist, you know.
Yeah.
Because other people, normal people, would immediately understand that this is abnormal, this is unjust, and this is crimes. And unless you're a criminal and racist and support these things, you would be in that place, you know, supporting these crimes and be part of it.
What do you think about people who have actually joined organizations like Breaking the Silence, for example, after doing tours on?
All of these activists are our friends. You know, we know them. We work together today, and we know all the left-wing activists, because they, since long time until today, they come to Masafer Yatta, and we do all of that. Most of our activism together. Yeah.
So let me ask you about that, actually, because. So Yuval Abraham played a role in this, in the making of this documentary. I've actually really admired his work for a long time at 972 Magazine, Local Calls, another one that does a lot of investigative reporting on all of the horrible things that the Israeli military is doing. Sometimes that even has the capacity to penetrate into the Western world. Ironically enough, from where I'm standing, when we look at Israeli news, even if it's Haaretz, which is not an anti-Zionist paper at all, or even if it's sometimes Ynet, or even sometimes Jerusalem Post, it's more honest than American media, because I feel like they don't feel the need to make it seem like what Israel's doing is moral, because if your audience is already Israeli, they already have decided that Palestinians are not human and must be dominated. Whereas in the New York Times here in the United States of America, I think that they sanitize it.
Because you're like, I think one of the reasons, and big reasons, because it's funded by the US, and the US doesn't want to say that we're funding those things.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. It's predominantly funded by us, both our tax dollars, but also directly funded by American Christian groups, for example. There's the largest donors to the West Bank, specifically in settler operations, is the Christians United for Israel, KUFI. It's a evangelical Zionist group, and it is comprised entirely of Christians. It's funded entirely by Christians, and it's Christians like the guy Mike Huckabee that Donald Trump just put as in charge of the West Bank from the American perspective, that believe in these like insane biblical reasons as to why the West Bank must be given and the entire region must be given to Jewish people so that they can trigger a rapture, and Jesus Christ will come back to earth in their estimation. It's truly psychotic. It's insane. Now, another question I have, I guess, is there are obviously Jewish Israelis who put their bodies on the line as well. Do you feel like that is, given the ethno-supremacist values that Zionists have, or given the ethno-supremacist values that Israel has, do you feel like when there are Jewish activists side by side with you that there is less harm in general?
Well, they sometimes been attacked and arrested a lot of times, but we are they don't face what we face as the Palestinians in most of the cases, because in the end of the day they have the privilege because they are Israelis. They are like, some of them are our friends, and we talk every day and we work together and go to the field. But still, they are Israelis. They know that they have the privilege, and not necessarily they, like, in a lot of cases. There was Israeli activists, and still the harm would be the same. For example, in Beta, where American activists were shot in the head and killed, and there was other American activists, American activists, the Turkish American and Israeli activists who were side by side with her and the Palestinians, and still the same. In Masafir Yatta, yeah, almost all. Sometimes it would make the harm less, depends on the situation, but sometimes, like most of the times, no. Settlers would come to commit a pogrom and to burn homes or attack people. They would keep doing it even if they see Israeli activists.
The Israeli Prime Minister's office says Israel agreed to a proposal for extending the Gaza ceasefire in return for the release of hostages, but is claiming that Hamas is refusing. As of now, this just came out, which is of course a lie, and they have lied about this every step of the way.
Yeah, they don't want to go to phase 2.
They don't want to go to phase 2, but it's currently Ramadan right now. In many instances, at least historically, Ramadan is a time for Israel to really escalate its violence in the West Bank specifically. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, many of the instances where Hamas has retaliated have happened during this time frame.
Jerusalem, maybe you mean?
What's up?
That they escalate the situation in Jerusalem. You mean?
Yeah, the Al-Aqsa Mosque specifically, Israel will come in, will refuse for people to even visit the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And then will sometimes commit a siege on the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I'm sure you can speak to that as well from your personal experience. And then even harm Palestinians, sometimes even killing Palestinians in the process. And then there will be retaliation that comes from the Gaza Strip. And then Israel will use that retaliation to go and bomb the Gaza Strip. This is usually how this process works. Having said that, this time, considering that there has already been a siege in Gaza and ethnic cleansing that has been happening in Gaza, and Israel is already focusing its efforts on the West Bank, how do you think that this Ramadan period will play itself out?
I think they still this year they have decided, I think, to prevent young people to attend to Al-Aqsa Mosque. For the audience, the people that's watching us, we are from the West Bank. We can't go to the Aqsa Mosque anyway, because it's technically inside the wall, the separation wall, and we need a permission that we will never get to go there. So, Palestinians from the West Bank don't go to pray in Al-Aqsa Mosque. In the previous years, some of the people would have permissions and exceptions to go pray in Al-Aqsa Mosque, and most of the escalations would happen with the prayers in Al-Aqsa. Today, I see, and most of the Fridays, actually, since the beginning of the war, Israel is preventing young people to attend to prayers in the Aqsa Mosque. We're talking about people from East Jerusalem and 48, like from inside the Green Line, not the West Bank. We're at all prevented to go there. And I think today in Ramadan as well, they're preventing young people to attend to the prayer only from 50 and up that can go enter pray in Al-Aqsa Mosque. They see in this a chance, that they can now control and change the situation in Al-Aqsa Mosque as well.
Yeah. Here, this is what I was talking about with respect to Israeli media versus American media, where Haaretz says Netanyahu stalls stage 2 of the Gaza ceasefire and once again weaponizes Israel's grief. The inertia of stage 1 and the resultant dramatic change in the Israeli public mood will soon clash with the prime minister's plan to obfuscate and prevaricate. Their analysis also is still not necessarily speaking on the humanity of the Palestinians, but the anger that Israelis feel towards their own government. But then you look at the American news, and it says Hamas rejects Israel's request to extend phase 1 of Gaza ceasefire.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. It's a lie. And when you say that it's a lie, people get mad at you. They say you're wrong. You're
shown also the cowardness of the American leaders when Biden set up a proposal and Hamas accepted, and then Netanyahu rejected, and then the American government say, "Oh, Hamas rejecting it and refusing to negotiate." The Hamas saying, "No, we are accepting it," and now the same thing, a proposal by the Americans that has phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. I think phase 1 ended, and Israel refusing to go to phase 2, and American media says Hamas is rejecting to go to.
When it's
nothing to blame Netanyahu
it's
for.
not the truth.
In this country, you are not allowed to blame Netanyahu for anything.
No,
he's always right.
No, of course, yes. I mean, going back to this, of course, this image says it all.
Yeah.
Obviously. So, what else? There's some other questions that I wanted to ask you before I let you guys go, because thank you so much for taking the time out to come here. And we're also close to tripling the goal, by the way, for Rebuilding Alliance fundraiser. We are now officially at 70. Holy moly. We are at, mashallah, we're at $73,419 raised.
Thank you.
Since you guys got here. Do they know about anti-BDS laws? Oh, yeah, that's actually an interesting question. Do you know that it is in 34 or I think it might be 37 now. In 37 states in the United States of America, it is illegal to protest Israel. It's illegal to boycott. Obviously, you know BDS. Boycott, divestments, and sanctions. It's illegal. You can't get a job. If you want to get a job in Texas, for example, as a public school teacher, you have to sign a document that says you will never advocate for boycotts, you will never advocate for divestments, and you will never advocate for sanctions against the state of Israel.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Sad, yeah, insane.
This is why, in spite of all of this, and in spite of the media blackout, and in spite of the abject lies that Western media tells, I still look at everything that's going on, and I still see the genuine attitude shift and the momentum in the direction of recognizing the humanity of Palestinian people as still a sign of things to change. And especially on the other side, I think Israel is a pariah state, no matter what, going forward.
Yeah.
Like our leaders, and I think in the Arab world and in Turkey as well, but in the Arab world, I think people understand this a little bit better, where the opinion of politicians and the government is very different than the opinion of the populations.
Yeah.
Where, like, you look at Mohammed bin Salman, or you look at the Jordanian king participating in security cooperations with the Israeli state, whereas the Jordanian population, or even the Saudi population, I think have a very different attitude about the Israeli state. And I think that's kind of what's happening in the Western world right now as well, especially with younger generations, where they're recognizing this cold, hard truth that there is no real democracy in this process, and that regardless of how much you protest, that the American government is still going to give billions and billions of dollars to Israel. And that, and I think that is inevitably going to create a contradiction that has to resolve, where one side's got to give. And I still am a firm believer that the side that will give is Western nations and Western governments that slowly but surely move away from the unconditional support they offer to Israel, especially as Israel has become this pariah state in the way that people receive it in the Western world as well. I say Western world because the rest of the world knows what's up, but you know, Western Europe is like one of the only places, and America is one of the only places where people have people have held this like loyalty to Israel,
and they are the ones supporting Israel and backing it, and you know, so for that we keep calling Europe and America, because most of the Israeli power comes from here.
Yeah. So let me ask you another thing. Do you foresee? Okay, this is the last question. I promise.
Sure. Yeah. No.
Do you foresee an attitude shift happening in Israel at all? This is a little bit of a tricky question. Do you think that there are more people, more activists that you have seen in at least the West Bank in terms of Jewish activists now? Post October 7th?
I'm not like expert in talking about the Israeli society, but they shifted more to the right wing, you know.
Yeah.
Like October 7th make most of the Israeli shifting a lot to, you know, in any way, most of the population didn't care about the occupation before that, and they were like, either they don't know, or they are not, or they don't want to know, you know. They don't want to open their eyes because they are living their own life and busy with it, and doesn't see what they are doing to us after the wall, and they don't mostly cross the wall to come to the West Bank. And I know that after October 7th, they more shifted to the right.
Yeah, and I think, again, this is my opinion, not theirs, okay? I think that there were a lot of people that are liberal Zionists that were very critical about Israel occupying the West Bank. And I think that they recognize that kind of looks bad to the Western world, and that's the reason why they were so critical over it. Or maybe they truly did think that it was unacceptable, I guess. Or maybe they had a more serious approach to it. where they thought, if you do this, then you make it impossible to have a two-state solution. And if there's no possibility for a two-state solution, the inevitability is a one-state solution. And we can't have that. We can't live side by side with the Palestinians. But regardless, I think a lot of those people after October 7 basically all dropped it completely. And they were like, no, do what needs to be done. At least I did see that from a lot of the liberal Zionist accounts that I saw on Twitter of people that initially would do activism in the West Bank, turning around and now saying stuff like, no, we have to pummel Gaza. We have to do everything we can. So, okay, this is definitely the last question. You don't have to answer it, okay? Gal Gadot is presenting the documentary award at the Oscars.
Yeah.
How does that work for you?
To be honest, I don't know her much. I just heard from some people about this subject.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's confirmed or not. Also, you don't have to respond to that. It's okay. You don't have to say anything. Okay. Also, you have plenty of experience, I think, just by living in the West Bank, talking to people who have served in the Israeli occupying force. So it won't be a unique experience in that regard, I guess. But this time you will, stand side by side as
we
peers.
don't know if we win.
Well, I'm rooting for you guys.
Thank you.
Hopefully. Is there anything that you want to tell our audience before I let you guys go?
No, we just don't. Thank you and thank the audience for listening to us, for having us here. It's a pleasure, and for helping us for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Get to the microphone. Ooh.
I just want to give a shout out to Latino Muslim Unity for putting these two events together for Basil and Hamdan. We have a screening tonight and also a post Oscar celebration dinner on Monday at Jackson Market. So we're looking forward to celebrate the nomination of this documentary with you guys. And we really appreciate everyone's support. So thank you guys.
Hell yeah. Well, once again, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything you want to say as well?
Just I need to thank you for the audience to hear us and host us, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your bravery. What do you guys like? What are some of the things you enjoy hobby wise?
Here
just in the States or in general, like what do you do for fun aside from surviving?
We sometimes play cards. What else? I don't know.
Just you
it's
play a little bit.
Remember something. Sometimes football.
Backgammon, tavla. I don't know I don't know how you say it in Arabic.
Yeah.
No.
Football.
Football.
Soccer.
Okay. All right. That's cool. Any TV?
No. Addicted to phones.
Oh, you watch TikTok?
Not TikTok. No, social media mostly. Instagram.
What do you do? You're on Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who do you follow on Instagram?
Who we follow?
What kind of stuff do you follow on Instagram?
I am addicted to politicians, so very hard to speak about other stuff. But yeah, some movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I won't bother you anymore.
We're fast.
No, I know. Thank you so much once again. All right, everybody. No Other Land, 2025 Academy Award nominee, Best Documentary Feature. Inshallah, tomorrow.
Inshallah.
We'll see what happens. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for coming.
Sure.
This was a real honor, and thank you for existing, and thank you for the work that you guys are doing in general.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I'm gonna chat. I'm gonna play. I'm gonna go back to the playlist. We're gonna talk about the disastrous. We're gonna talk about the disastrous Zelensky meeting and the Ukrainian response to it. And then I obviously have some other stuff going on as well. But yeah, we're continuing with the regular broadcast right now.
Не можна довіряти ні Трампу, ні Путіну.
Могло быть более дипломатичнее. Я понимаю Зеленского, потому что в принципе, в каком тоне пошел диалог с Трампом и Венсом, все к этому шло. Да, можно было бы дипломатичней, но есть что есть, будем дальше разгребаться с Европой будем. Тоже будем в хороших отношениях. Болезненная часть, то, что этот договор не был подписан, потому что терять такого ценного союзника, как США, очень глупо. Какие бы отношения ни были, если бы это соглашение было подписано, я считаю, что все вот эти слова остались бы словами. И действия в виде этого договора и участие США в в работе по минералам Украины более стабилизировали бы эти отношения. Это очень страшно.
Коли нам давали перші 3 дні і більше не давали ніяких шансів, і весь світ був проти нас, ми якось самі вистояли, самі справилися. Тут справа в тому, що в нас дійсно не вистачає ресурсів, але в нас ще є Європа, і тут важливо не опускати руки і не здаватися. Трамп просто вже в таких роках, що через певний час він не буде пам'ятати просто цієї зустрічі. І так само, коли він говорив, що він не пам'ятає, що він назвав його диктатором, це теж дивно. Тому подивимося, як буде далі.
Багато країн європейських висловили свою підтримку Україні, і ми, в принципі, сподіваємося на те, що це якийсь крок, якийсь поштовх до того, аби збільшити допомогу Україні, насамперед технічної, боєприпасів і так далі. Щодо Америки, насправді ми їм дуже вдячні за ту допомогу, яку ми отримували весь цей час і продовжуємо отримувати. Але наша гідність, наша честь, я думаю, зараз має стояти вище всього. Ми пройшли дуже важкий шлях, насправді. Можливо, це буде звучати дуже грубо, але витерти об себе ноги. Як було зазначено американськими журналістами, Білий дім ще такого не бачив. І, в принципі, також ми були не готові до цього. Це був такий, в принципі, приємний шок. Так, це був дуже несподіваний формат спілкування, але є дві сторони медалі. Дипломатичність, так, в принципі, президент Зеленський мав би дотримуватися більш якихось норм, правил, але з другої сторони це була провокація.
Чув, читав. Краще зробив все як треба і показав, що Україна далі буде боротися.
Президент країни, у якій зараз відбувається війна, вчинив правильно. Це той момент, коли протокол можна порушити, і це виправдано. Я все-таки вважаю, що наш президент дуже достойно веде себе і достойно представляє нашу країну. Я 100% його підтримую і відчуваю таку гордість за нашого президента.
Зеленский с его такой, знаете, он, полез со своим, так сказать, таким гонором. Не знаю, там, украинским или каким, понимаете, но никому, ни Трампу, ни его окружению, да, его, вот. Поэтому получил то, что заслужил. Поэтому, если он вернется на Украину, я думаю, что нападки на него там внутренние, они усилятся. И думаю, для него, конечно, вот уже были такие разговоры, что ему надо куда-то срочненько, так сказать, убегать. В Париж там или еще куда.
Если Трамп будет кардинально решать, вернее радикально даже этот вопрос, отключается Старлинк, и война тут же заканчивается. Они без Старлинка ничего не смогут сделать.
What do you mean, fuck it, he's not coming back? I had to, make sure that they were comfortable and walk them out and be... Because last time we did this, I had some people here already with like motas and stuff. So it was easier for me to greet them and then, or someone else to greet them basically when they first came in. Obviously, I don't want to ask certain questions that might get people in trouble. Okay. And there's also a lot of stuff that I can say that, can you invite some known Zionists and do a chatter with them? No. I think you can get that from virtually every news outlet. No, smile. Dude, chat was really freakish, by the way. Oh my God. The mere sight of people who are direct victims of American and Israeli violence brought something about in this community where all the freaks came in. I mean, it would be nice to corner them and see how they react publicly. Again, I do that already on TV from time to time. Ban all the high pitch noise people. This is what you reminded me when you came to... Okay. But yeah, I'm very proud of you guys. You did great today, chat. Overall, look at this. Look at us. Raised over $80,000. $82,000 in a matter of an hour. Also, I have already had a conversation with someone who's pro-Israel. It was called The Leftovers Podcast. So it's not, I guess, not as much pro-Israel back then as it is now. But yeah. Tuning in late, did you watch the documentary on stream? No. And also Piers Morgan show. We were just talking about the movie, the Solidarity Palestinian group here in Yucatan. Nice. I feel like this community has a lot of people of wealth or somewhat wealthy. Like these people are donating more than $1K. Not just a critic, just an observation. Yeah, there are a lot of people here that have jobs. Sorry. This is a community comprised of adults. Lo and behold, shocking revelation. People who are obsessively interested in politics oftentimes come from, adult backgrounds and from professional backgrounds in general. Also, socialism when poor is not the case anyway. Oh, I wanted to post this. I wanted to point to this. Yeah, we're in the new era. Cloudy says, if you're a white man in today's political climate and you're at least a little bit woke, you got to start wearing those obnoxiously progressive t-shirts. I'm talking transgender Punisher. Women feel safe around me. Graphic tees and tanks constantly. So I know you're chill with it. Yeah, we're bringing this back. Okay. And we're bringing this back too. If this flag offends you, I'll help you pack. I am that guy. I'm still that guy. I've been that guy. Do you still have that? No. The story of this shirt is very funny. Someone sent it to me. I wore it. And this cashier lady actually liked it so much at the Ralph's that I was at that I gave it to her. So no, I don't actually have this shirt, this sweater anymore because she asked to take a photo with me. I did. And then I gave her the sweater. That is the story behind this this photo. Anyway, what is the lib version of Hank Pecker? Just Hassan Piker. I'm a lib, dude. All right. 1 second. We are liberal now. That's the name of my that's the name of my liberal character. The name of my liberal character is Hassan Piker because I'm a lib. You walked home naked? I have a t-shirt underneath it, Chatter. What do you mean I walked home naked? That's so funny. Chatter's like, methinks this doesn't make sense. I feel like you're lying. I feel like you're lying. Brace Belden is Lib Hassan Piker. It's Hans Bloomberg. Yeah. Do you still have the AR-15 liberal cum shirt? Yes, I do. Okay. Where was I? Okay. Open the P.O. box, you ape? No. I will, though. Talk about your goat Erdogan? No. Let's hear from the Europeans and how they're reacting to the Ukraine stuff and America's like slim moral argument basically falling apart in broad daylight. Okay? The Brits. Is the new Drewski Show app out? Can we watch it? I already watched it. I watched it as soon as it came out.
Take a deep breath, actually. I just watched the press conference, and I was just telling the lady who answered the phone that I felt like bursting into tears when I was watching it because it just struck me that it was like two horrible bully boys who are kind of in the sixth form of a secondary school, and they've approached, third or fourth year and basically saying, if you don't give us your dinner money, we're going to beat the crap out of you.
Oh, there's this too.
Except it was done in front of the world.
How this YouTuber destroyed his career in 2 weeks, 300K in 1 day. God damn. This is one of the first times I've seen like a random expose that's not like immediately and directly. You really skipped over the opportunity to use the title The Destined Downfall of Destiny or Destiny's Destined Downfall. That is pretty funny. Homeboys read it in human form. Yeah, we got this as well on the docket. We can watch. Ceasefire won't last. Fascist state of Turkey will continue to oppress the Kurds and they will rise up in arms again. This is not even about socialism. This is not even about, I'm not even talking about like, fucking hate this guy. He hung up on someone speaking positively of the BBC Gaza documentary. Freak. Have you seen Caroline Leavitt says she only got a part of the docs and they put the blame now on the FBI? Okay. There's a new overzealots. Yes, socialism leads to dictatorship debunked and how this YouTuber burned his career. But we'll do all of those. We'll do all of those. We got a lot. Hassan dodging Kurdish comments once again. No, dumbass. No, I'm not dodging the Kurdish comments. I'm saying that I don't know enough about Erdogan's intentions. Why do you cynically think that, why do you cynically think that I would be hiding something when I've like very openly made my opinion on this issue known? The fuck? Dude, yesterday on the broadcast, I had a literal person who is considered a terrorist officially by the Turkish government for going and fighting in Rojava alongside the YPJ, your favorite content creator, whoever they might be, your favorite libtard content creator doesn't even know what a Kurdish person is, okay? They think Kurd is a cheese curd, and you're over here assuming that me as a Turkish guy automatically is fucking, gonna have some biases towards Kurdish people, dummy. Yes, this is an equal opportunity terrorism broadcast. You understand? Bruce Belden, the lib, actually went to Rojava to get the vote out, not to take up arms. True. That is true. All kinds of terror, just not the Western kind, you know? Provisional IRA interview when? Okay, you're joking, but like, not provisional IRA, but I will be. I'm looking to link up with. I mean, that's not provisional IRA, but I am looking to link up with some wonderful Irish folks. Okay, some wonderful Irish folks soon.
Honestly, I just can't believe it.
You should watch Harlan Spinks. You are in his new vid. Who the fuck is Harlan Spinks?
It's Jerry Springer. It's and you know, Mary,
and
not to take away from the very, very important substance of this. For years and years and years, I've had the privilege of being able to sit here and relay some of what I saw of Trump as president behind the scenes and the influence of wrestling, WrestleMania, WWE, Andre. This was wrestling. This is WrestleMania in politics on the television about war and peace.
I got pee.
It sort of reached its zenith tonight.
It was the most awful example of just gutter, horrible politics, and like you say, and like your American, I can't remember his name. Sorry, he's very good.
Simon Marks.
Yes, thank you, Simon. Absolutely, it was premeditated. You could tell. And then this whole situation with Starmer yesterday. I mean, they must just be laughing. This is the worst kind of bully politics I have ever. It's just awful.
Jerry's in St Albans. Jerry.
I don't know about you, Tom, but I thought I was having a dream. Please allow me, Tom, to explain my thoughts on this matter, because I have never in my whole life seen or witnessed anything quite like this. He was literally bullied, yes? And President Macron, Prime Minister Keir Starmer have gone there and bowed down to President Trump.
They did what they had to do, Jerry. They did what they had to do.
I know, but you can't trust them. Yes? You cannot bully somebody in signing something. Yes? This is unfitting. What are we going to do? So he is forced. We're sitting back watching this. And then when he comes over to the UK, we have to bow down to him again. Where is our power? Where is our resilience in standing up? He is a dictator alongside Mr. Putin. We are going to end up in trouble.
Jerry, I think the trouble's coming.
Yeah, trouble.
Listen, the trouble may have got worse, actually, as a result of the fallout from all of this. We'll see. But
how can you talk to somebody like that?
Well, you have to.
Absolutely
you have to.
unbelievable.
He's the president of the United States. We have no option.
Dude, it's kind of interesting seeing. It's kind of interesting seeing like people who are living in the sphere of American influence starting to recognize the game a little bit, because like until recently it was never as overtly turned on white people. Like the faucet of exploitation, or like the funnel of exploitation rather, has almost entirely been directed in the global south and rarely ever to other white people. So now they're like, what's going? They're treating Ukrainians like they're Kurds or something. Like, what is this? Is what they would say if they knew the dynamic between Kurdish people in America, but they don't. So obviously they would never say that. But and I ask every single person who lives in the United States of America a very simple question. A government that doesn't even care enough about its own citizenry to at least offer them decent social safety nets. Why in the ever-loving fuck did you think that this government would care about random British people or random Ukrainian people. Okay? Our government doesn't even care about our own citizens. They only care about money. They only care about profits. Okay? There's no affordable housing in this country. There's no healthcare in this country. Why the fuck did you think that this same government was ever morally invested in Ukrainian emancipation? You out of your mind? Yeah, Yugopnik had a funny tweet about this as well. He said, Ukrainian white status revoked. Welcome back to unwashed Eastern Asiatic horde status. The rest of us missed you, not gonna lie. And then this person says, nah, USA white status revoked. Sure. Not America, but this Trump administration? No. No. Don't do this thing where it's like just the Trump administration. You think the fucking Biden administration was doing anything different in terms of caring about its own citizens? What do you mean? Imagine a liberal Biden, okay? Hassan, you're dumb as dog. I say big soda _TV. Yeah, big sodas, guzzling on those big sodas, and will get diabetes and will not be able to pay for insulin. And then it'll take him to recognize at that very moment why the American government doesn't give a shit about him either. Probably not, though. I don't know. Maybe you'll turn around and blame immigrants or some shit. I don't know. And you'll just keep going, I don't understand. Far from fat. Okay. Okay, big soda. I'm a soda boy too. Don't worry. Okay. I'm a big soda boy myself. The question remains for the Europeans, not big soda. With a name like Big Soda, I doubt that you're European. You seem like a mainland US kind of guy, okay? A real Midwestern possible hog, okay? You got that hog-like mentality. Now, let me ask the Europeans once again. You see the way that my government treats our people. What made you think that this government actually cared about you, let alone Ukrainians? Okay? Just a very simple question. That's not a Midwesterner. We don't call soda. Oh, yeah, you call it pop. You're right. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of blame Scheinbaum and Trudeau for bending the knee with tariffs. Am I misguided? I wish they stood 10 toes down and be like, we don't negotiate with fascist dictators. Too idealistic. Come on, dude. America's about to start doing bombing campaigns on the fucking southern border, and you're over here like, why are they playing ball with the American empire? This is also part of the reason why I think, at least for the time being, right now, given how much Europe hates China more and how scared they are of China, that there won't be like a serious shift.
But to talk to him and to get him on board, and he quite likes the UK, so that's a good thing. But Jerry, listen.
And there is an underlying thing I want to end on,
Sure.
and I think people should look at it and address it and read a little bit more into it. We have BRICS, yes, which have signed up. There's far more people, countries which have signed up onto this year in January with their own currency, which is starting to come into play. And it will affect the US. So that is why I think Trump is playing a cunning game with Putin and the rest of Europe. He's a very smart man, yes? And we need to step up.
Jerry, sorry, are you talking about the attempts by the Chinese to remove the dollar as the reserve currency?
They will do in time.
Yeah, I agree.
God damn, dude. UK's truly a developing nation. They don't even got good internet over there. No good phones. Israel agrees on U.S. plan for temporary ceasefire in Gaza. What? Isn't this earlier when they said that they're not? Per Times of Israel, the proposed ceasefire extends through Ramadan and Passover, during which all hostages can potentially be released. Ramadan runs until March 29th. Passover ends on April 19th. Half of the hostages will be released on the first day of the extended ceasefire. Are they going to pull out of the Philadelphia corridor? Because this is the second phase of the ceasefire. Second phase of the ceasefire means that Israel has to pull out of the Philadelphia corridor, as in open up the Rafah passage into Egypt. How is Trump going to make other countries pay the tariffs? He's not. That's not how tariffs work.
Damn, this guy's good.